Yeah, how are things going with the lounge?
The lounge is really, really busy. Ever since we've sort of got good public, sort of mainstream media reports, we've been really, really busy. A lot more of the general public are actually coming in through the door, opening their mouths and saying, "We want to know about medical cannabis." So it's going strength to strength. I couldn't be busier.
Nice, nice. That is great to hear. That is great to hear. As I kind of alluded to in the prelude, I've had at least one comment for you to appear on the podcast. So to that one listener, here you go. I do listen. I do listen. But yeah, as I
I,
mentioned,
it was me. It was me. No,
I didn't
no,
even consider you at your burner account. Yeah, I didn't think of that one. I'll have to
oh,
be
thank you. Good. Thank
smarter
you.
in the
Really
future.
good. Simpa, it's an absolute pleasure to be on here. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and we'll have spoke before, but it's been a long, long time. So I'm really excited to get chatting.
Me too, brother. Me too, man. So yeah, let's without further ado, then jump sort of straight into it. I'm gonna do my usual cliched. Yo, how's it going, folks? Welcome to episode 138 of the Simpa Life podcast. Hope you've had a wonderful week. For me, it's been about 15 hours since last week's episode because I'm recording and stacking all of my episodes for Cannabis right now. I've got two more recordings tomorrow as well. So I may look a bit burnt out by what looks like 3 weeks from now, but that's just because it's tomorrow night. But yeah, this is the best way to do it. You can have some good quality content. It might not be relevant. So in the next few episodes, if I'm not talking about the world ending, that zombie virus in that country, that's because I didn't know yet. So maybe the episode after, we'll figure it all out. It'll all fall back into alignment when I'm back from Spain. But anyway, I'm waffling shit. There are two things though I do have to mention. One is and this may be contentious, and I don't frankly give a fuck if it is, the absolute balls and bravery of the man Aaron Bushnell, the guy who self-immolated the U.S. Marine in the U.S. recently as a protest to Palestine. I shared the video this morning. I watched the video and I wept like a fucking child. I think anybody that fails to be moved by that, you need to question your fucking humanity. It doesn't matter what side you believe you to be on, whatever it is. Go and see what he posted, what he said, and what happened, and reconnect with your humanity. It's going to be difficult. It's going to fucking trigger you. It's going to hurt you, but it will make you a better person. Through the pain, we grow. And the second, on a much more lighter note, Germany. Germany's obviously sought to, I say, legalize. It's been interestingly kind of half misreported. There is still one contingent that could happen. The Bundestag could, the upper house could veto it. They could put a delay on it. Technically, in German law, the way that it's gone, they don't need the upper house's approval. So as long as, fingers crossed, nothing happens in Germany between now and April 1st, that should come into effect. Obviously, there are various limitations and restrictions, which I'm going to discuss shortly with today's guest. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into that introduction of said guest. That's a rough segue, but we're moving with it anyway. Today's guest is a Northern Irish cannabis advocate, activist, and owner of the Stay Medicated Dry Herb Vaporisation Lounge in County Antrim in Northern Ireland. They are the NICannaGuy, Alan Robson. How are you doing?
All right, my man. How's it going, Simpa? Absolute pleasure to be here, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime, man, anytime. As I said in my preamble or whatever, I'm going to have cut into the few minutes at the start there. Yeah, you've been on my list for a while, man, and yeah, I'm glad that we've got the opportunity to get this sit down together because I think, as I've said to you, and I think we shared an affinity at many events that we bumped into, Northern English, Northern Irish. We kind of have a little bit of a disdain for Westminster and for the powers that be and the restrictions that they place upon our lives and the history and
Definitely.
that we've lived under. So yeah, I think this should be a really interesting conversation. So I think for people that maybe don't know yourself, obviously I'll include some links below to, as you said, the various news sources, which I think, given it's the BBC, was very fairly reported. But yeah, give us a bit of an introduction to yourself. Like, how and when did you first get involved in cannabis?
Well, I've always enjoyed cannabis. Growing up as a young boy, a young lad, always had a drink with my friends, but every time there was cannabis, I always just went to it. It became a drug of choice, but deep down inside, I knew that I liked it, and I wasn't getting hangovers and stuff like I did with alcohol. And as I came out of my teenage years, more and more, I was using cannabis during the day, like every day. So going from that, I seen on the news. I was just sitting in the house one night. I seen on the news there was a news piece about young Billy Caldwell, and his campaign for his medical cannabis. And I was sitting there in the house smoking an actual joint, watching the news. And as soon as I seen it, all I seen was a mother and her son walking up the road on their own. And I just went, this is amazing. This is actually on the news. Here's cannabis on the news. I've always had this weird inclination that it's helped. My old school GP back in the day told me to eat a cannabis plant to help me with my alopecia. God love her, she's probably well retired now. Things like that always just have my mind always sort of cannabis. There's more to it. Being able to sort of join social media and really go for it with NICannaGuy and the decriminalisation in Northern Ireland and stuff, it really, really bolsters my love for cannabis, and it hasn't stopped. So where we are now, 2024, I'm sitting in the first dry herb vape lounge on the whole island of Ireland, and I'm actually not having to get up and do a 12-hour shift in a factory like I used to have to, and basically do my body in, doing my job. So it's good. It's good. It's bad as well. Everybody that comes up to see me, Simpa, nobody comes through my door and they've got a happy story. Nobody. Even the ones that do come in with their prescription all happy, the reasons why they have it, it's never a cheery story. But I'm doing what I want to do, and I feel as though I'm doing what I said that I would do. So I'm about 2016, I got sacked from my full-time job after a drug test. It was a joke, really. I was in the place that long, everybody knew that I used cannabis. So when I lost my job, I felt confident enough to go onto social media and post pro cannabis things and not have to face my workmates the next day and be ridiculed, because the stigma around cannabis is ridiculous. Even to this day, my vape lounge, I've had it open now for just 2.5 years, and half of my family are all for it and support it. The other half, they've never even set foot in the place, and that's the stigma out there. That's the reefer madness still alive today. I would really wish in this day and age of everybody seeming to go out of their way to be offended about something, and the stuff that is going on in society today, I really feel that cannabis is being left out and neglected, because when you look at the prohibition laws, they're as racist as hell. Any politician worth their salt that looked at them laws, their jaw would hit the floor. The likes of the things that Anslinger and stuff said, it needs seriously addressed. I do. I feel cannabis is being very discriminated against, and maybe it needs more light shone on it instead of maybe hurting somebody's feelings because they came last in a wee race or something. You know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress, my man. This is your show. Sorry. So
No, it's perfect. As I said, these are raw and authentic conversations, and I'm far more interested in learning about my guests and their passions and connecting and inspiring my audience. That's so. I think you've in some ways done that, because again, you had this passion for cannabis. You saw something. You felt a call to action in the Joseph Campbell sort of sense of the word, and you acted upon it. That is the hero's journey, and nothing but respect for you for the way that you've gone about this. As you said, 2.5 years, you've been there plugging away at this. It's not been an easy 2.5 years. People go, oh, it's 2014. Medical cannabis or prescription cannabis have been legal for 6 years or nearly 6 years. It's like, yeah, the first few years were some dark years, man. You think it's bad now. They were charging £2,000-3,000 for what people can turn over for 50 quid in their bedrooms. Like, they were tearing people's eyes out. They were making them jump through through fucking hoops to qualify. I mean, it's such a limited system. And I think with the work that you're doing, I think over time, all of your family, maybe not all of them, maybe not every member, bigotry is a hard thing to challenge. We all have our blind spots. But I think over time, you are creating a space on the high street, where it's day-to-day activism. People walk past the store every day. They see the leaf. They see the words. They see the people coming in and out of all different genders, backgrounds, groups, and creeds and races. And they go away. These are not the dirty druggies. These are not who I think cannabis to be. And it just drip by drip erodes their ignorance. and it's a slow burn, but I think that's why you deserve all the more commending for it, because it isn't just that 20 minutes of extreme bravery as they describe it. It's the onslaught of every day getting up and every day
Yeah.
powering through and trying to, go through behind the scenes what people don't see to make that happen. They just assume that, oh, well, he just got to eat shop and he just da 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 da. It's like, yeah, if you
Yeah.
think it's just, go fucking do it yourself. With all respect to anybody.
Well, you're right. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your kind words. It has been hard because being an activist, especially on social media, you'll know yourself. It's really difficult to sit in the middle between the recreational groups and the medical groups, and even those groups. Like back 5 6 years ago, a lot of those groups would have been tearing the hair out of each other on both sides, the recreational groups and the medical groups. So
Mm.
to sort of see where we are now, it's fantastic, but I still think there's a lot of work to be done. The laws were changed for the children, and there's no doctor qualified to prescribe them at the moment, the ones in the UK. So the law change, it could be very easy for somebody to sit and say they're handing out bags of weed for people with headaches, but the actual people that the law was changed for are still having to campaign. They're still having to go through a lot of terrible things. But progress is being made, Simpa,
Mm.
and the people that do come into the lounge, there's a guy comes up in a wheelchair and he's got one arm and he's got one leg, and there's other people that come up and they're going to the gym. You know, they're looking medical cannabis for whatever it is, their recovery or something. So it's right across the board. It started at the very, very start, just touching on what you said earlier. People were coming in and telling me what was wrong with them, which even saying that what's wrong with you isn't really right, but you sort of get what I mean. So most people were coming in and they felt compelled that they had to tell me that there was something seriously wrong with them so that they could be considered for a prescription for medical cannabis. And again, that's just a reflection of the way the government has everybody thinking, because I'm not a doctor and I say that about 20 times a day. But the people that do come in for a cannabis prescription, yes, there is the ones that want to be decriminalised and they're self-sufficient and they can source their own. That's maybe that's maybe about 5% of the people I'm talking to. Majority of them are either wanting a safe source or they're trying to actually just feel better.
Mm.
Having the lounge there gives them the opportunity to come in and sit down and forget about what everybody else thinks. You know,
Yeah.
there's no, I'll always say there's no silly questions, because somebody will come in and they'll say, I know this sounds real stupid, but, and ask me, but I'm like, listen, come in, ask all the questions you want. That's what we're here for. And it is good to see them leave and come back maybe a week later and they've got their prescription and they're like, right, what all vaporizers do you have? Let's get down to business, sort of thing. So, good days and bad days.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's, yeah, you point to something quite potent, and I think something that has been lost in the mire. For all there are still groups, I think they're called MedCan Support now. I think there was a bit of an issue around naming, so they had to rechange the name. But it's Matt and
Intractable.
yeah,
Medcan,
Intractables is
Medcan
another. So
Family
there's these different groups that have been set up by. Basically, what I was going to go through was parents of kids that have had to set up these groups
Yeah,
several years now after the fact, because as you
yeah,
say, there isn't a pediatric specialist. There isn't anybody looking at children, despite them actually being probably one of the most malleable groups. If we take the moralizing, even the age restriction, and park that out of it, and we look at the idea of chronic endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, the sooner you can get cannabinoids into a deficient syndrome in youth, the better. Think of it as like vitamins and like rickets or something, a condition like that is degenerative, can be highly worsened by a poor diet or even generated by a poor diet. It's the same sort of thing. So rather than the kids bowing and then them needing to do the surgery in the legs and all of this other stuff after the fact when they're adults down the line, that's where they should be implementing it. As I've said, I believe we should be fortifying grains and cereals with non-psychoactive cannabinoids, the same way we do with like niacin and other vitamins. It should just be in the fucking food. But when everybody's system is supplemented, then what's left is actual medical need. And the other people on this side are just, we like it.
Yeah.
And that's when we'll actually really help those fucking kids. Because exactly, it feels like, with my little tinfoil hat, part of the issue is Epidiolex, is GW's autonomy, their hegemony and their power. So they've flipped it and, oh yeah, these kids are getting unlicensed medications from here and there and there and there. And then Epidiolex is launched and they're like, here's our drug that's patented, that's cannabinoid derived, cannabis derived. Oh, yeah, I suppose it is cannabis derived. That's a patented drug that is available because it is a scheduled and a licensed medication. Whereas obviously all cannabis is prescribed as off-license medication. So that became the preference. But there are kids in this country. Something fell somewhere. I don't know what it was. There are kids in this country whose parents are still being offered brain surgery before they're offered fucking cannabis. Like I remember there's the tragic story when I was talking to Lisa Quarrell, and she was describing, and she was tearing the emotion and listening. They're going like, they wanted to cut my child's brain open rather than give him a plant. It's when you look at it like it's ridiculous, and I think the situation's kind of getting worse because it's being exploited. As you say, the clinics are now going, oh, these cases are far too complicated. It's going to cost us loads of money to get independent people to come and verify that. And whereas this guy with depression, I can't measure depression. He just tells me he's depressed. He's gone to his doctor and the doctor said he's depressed. I get the paperwork. He's tried the prescription. Here you go. We're back to the MMJ system of doctors in sandals on Venice Beach, sat in the doctor's office, and a guy comes in, a tourist, and goes, oh, I want to get medical marijuana because, I'm really ill. And the doctor goes, okay, how are you sleeping? Oh, I missed that one. How's your back? Oh, I missed that one. Do you know what I mean? And they'll coach you into it. Like, literally, I was speaking to somebody that I'm not going to grass you up. Love and respect you. The other day, he was quite high up in an organization, an entity, and we were talking about it, and he was going, oh, yeah, I got my script now. And in the conversation, he went, oh, what did he prescribe it for? I can't even remember. And you know what I mean? It was like, what? You said, you son of a bitch. And it was because, again, he's doing what most of us are doing. And one of the things I actually enjoy about the script, but I am fully aware it's exploitative and unfair, is the protection when driving. Is to have THC lawfully in your system and not automatically lose your license, to not have to. I don't know. Are you guys subject? I suppose you will because you're UK Road Traffic Act 1988. So we're under Section 5A, which means that if you're the average person, it has more than 0.2 THC in their blood per liter when driving, they're considered to be impaired. Detection equals impairment. But with the prescription in the UK, I'm not sure actually if this is honoured in other countries. It's going to be worth doing some research when I want to drive abroad. But I can, or anybody with a prescription can refuse the 5A route, and they have to be dealt with this Section 4, which is a field sobriety test. But even then, the field sobriety test has to be engaged in such a way that most of the officers aren't trained for it these days. Since 2015, they changed the law because cannabis. Sorry, Guy, I'm going to get your statistics wrong. Prior to 2015, cannabis driving drug conviction charges were about 60 to 70%, as in conviction rate. Post 2015, I think it's 96+%. So they basically it wasn't about impairment or safety. It's going, you've got weed we've got weed in you. You shouldn't be driving. And now we've muddied the waters with 35,000 patients that can literally drive with a giant like you can put a volcano in your car and smoke, vape the volcano, and actually you would be more likely to get done for reckless driving or something, or driving without due care and attention if the bag impedes your view.
Yeah.
But then the law says if you smoke a blunt, which in effect is exactly the same in terms of the high, you're going to get stoned either way, but the blunt is going to get you arrested. As you say, there are benefits, brilliant benefits to this, but there are also these pitfalls that I think over time are going to become gulfs, and people are already starting to fall in them. I know, obviously, through my work with Seed Our Future and my connection with Guy Coxell and the amazing work that he does there, many patients are still, because they're not aware. They're not. I know the law. So if a cop pulls me over, I'm going to school him and force him to bring a higher cop down until he knows the fucking law, or he's going to have to detain me in a way that I'm going to record and I'm going to fucking do them for after the fact. Whereas somebody that doesn't know that goes, oh, I'm a prescription patient. And as I've heard from patients themselves, cops have taken their weed and gone, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
You liar, you fucking fraud. You're bullying them, berating them, while cuffing them, strip searching them in a fucking cell. Even though they've got that protection of the law. So again, institutions like yourself go a long way to making tangible and physical these ethereal protections that we have, because they are rights. They are law. Well, I suppose the rights in a traditional sense, but we are legal protections. And so the
Yeah.
more education we can provide to people and the more protection that we can, I think it draws that hypocrisy. But like I said, I think we're going to end up with a glut and a big bubble of people just exploiting that system to protect themselves, so they don't get fired from work, so they don't get kicked out of the house, so their marriage doesn't break down, so they can still consume cannabis however they want it. And yes, there may be some underlying benefit to their endocannabinoid system, as there likely will be, but it feels exploitative to force that person to pay a doctor to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. Um, I don't know what sort of volcano you've got in your car because mine's are all plug-in. But
No, I'm saying you could, but you can get cigarette. I've been thinking about this for a while, and actually, I might
yeah,
fucking do it. But you can get a 3-pin cigarette adapter,
right.
so you can plug in a fucking volcano. Your volcano would plug in.
But why would you be wanting to do that? I know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying, but I wouldn't recommend vaping and driving. I don't even. I used to. I smoke cigarettes. I don't even smoke cigarettes now when I'm driving. That was a big thing for me. The last time we changed our car, I made a promise that I wouldn't stink out the car because I'm the only one in the house that's running about smoking. But I definitely hear what you're saying. See, just touching back on the food thing. I'm definitely a great believer in before pre-prohibition. I'm pretty sure the likes of hemp and stuff would have been growing wild about the place, and the likes of the pigs and the cows and stuff would have been eating it. So I would definitely, now we'll have to look it up, but I would dare to say that there would have been, cannabinoids in our diet before prohibition, before funky words like fibromyalgia came to light. See, the next person comes in and tells me they've got fibromyalgia, my head's just going to flip right round. There's no such thing as fibromyalgia. Do you know there's no such thing as fibromyalgia? It's just a word that the doctors tell people whenever they've exhausted their list.
Yeah, it's the symptom, not
Yeah.
the cause. They're not addressing that cause. I think yeah, you're entirely right in your thesis there. There's been a study recently that has shown trans. I mean, I'm a vegan, so it's not relevant to me, but there has been studies that have shown cannabinoid transfer from cows that are fed on cannabis into their meat and milk. We know
Yeah.
this obviously with human mammals. Human mammals, that's an odd way of saying it. But the breast milk of humans,
Yeah.
there's transitory properties of cannabinoids. But the thing to remember there is the main thing of why like a baby calms down when it's had breast milk is not because of the milk. It's because of anandamide, the bliss molecule, our natural version of THC. So we need to, I think, get beyond the moralizing. And again, this isn't me rolling to going here, roll fatties for kids. If we can get beyond the moralizing aspect of the intoxication aspect of it, I think, as you say, there is a huge argument to be made that a great deal of modern conditions do not exist in isolation. They are all to the same thing. It's like, as I mentioned yesterday for me, last week for you fine folk, like what during scurvy and people on ships and shit. And it kind of feels like they did the right thing back then and they went, fucking orange juice, vegetables, fruits, any of these things that contain these vitamins. And they went down that route and everyone was just knowledgeable about them.
Yeah.
It feels like now, instead of going down that route, we've gone medical oranges. Do you know what I mean? And we've gone, right, all the orange groves, you're not allowed to grow oranges without a license because it's medicine. Orange juice is now a restricted product. You've got to be aged to buy. Do you know what I mean? That's what it feels like they've done. Instead of looking at cannabis as this base nutrient, this essential, I suppose, macronutrient and vitamin, they're analogous to a vitamin or mineral, that is required for human health. Like as you say, I mean, we have evidence of this in Oliver Twist, for example, as my friend Trev Coleman always points out. The gruel, please, sir, have some more. That was made from cannabis seed.
Right.
I mean, it's a highly nutritious, it's a complete protein. Like it was such a cheap and abundant food source, but it was seen as that it was given to workhouse employees, indentured servitude, the servants, workhouse individuals. So there is proof of this. And I think, again, people are starting to look at this, but they're still going, 10 milligrams here, 50 milligrams. Like, nah, man. We don't delve out other things in such pitiful amounts. It's not like that in the same sort of sense. It's, as you say, we should be eating the whole plant. It needs to be reintroduced into our diet in terms of like, it should be an additive like kale or spinach in every little juice drink. Do you know what I mean? There are ways that we can extract the psychoactive cannabinoids. Not everything needs to get you high. You know, there are different, completely different, like freak show, like genetics that are sure a capability as we move into is it oh god triploids. I think we're in polyoids, and I'm barely learning the science of this, but the next evolution of breeding into cannabis with what we did with other grains, and this then opens up a whole new genetic bottleneck of opens us up from the bottleneck to genetically breed out. And in this, as we're seeing, are companies that are breeding down, you know, cannabis plants that are 0.00000 cannabinoids, but they're producing flavonoids, terpenes, and producing other things. So then again, the science would suggest from that we could be engineering plants, again, not for this sort of craft consumption, but for mass consumption into powders, potions, pills, like I said, fortifying my grains. There's so much benefit to it as a plant that way. And then the other aspect of it is if we grew it on that much scale for food production, guess how much carbon we'd be sequestering? Guess how many other biofuel byproducts we'd have? So we'd have like biofuel, we could have batteries, we could have clothing, textiles, and paper. You know, the roots can, I'm not going to say that, it'll get me in trouble with YouTube, but can make explosives. You know, there's all sorts of things that could be done from various things. So the military could definitely benefit from at least the root balls. You know what I mean? If we had that vertically integrated cannabis industry where every aspect of the plant was used, we'd have a true like recycle, regenerative new way of living. Do you know what I mean? So I think the dry herb lounges, I think, are stage one. I think we're going to end up with eventually cannabis will become like alcohol on the high street. So rather than it have to be, oh, this is a cannabis cinema or this is a cannabis this, it'll just be, oh, this cinema serves cannabis.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think we'll eventually evolve to that, but it's pioneers like yourself that are going to get us there, because there are so many people that are like, oh, when it goes legal, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, do you know how many people are actually doing shit right now? You are not going to get to play. It doesn't matter how much money you've got. These fuckers are on the streets out there building these models, doing these things.
Yeah, it has to be done, and that's it. Well, what I said at the start, I meant it. You know, I feel as though I've done what I said I was going to do, and that was put cannabis on the high street. I didn't get my own script until 2021, and just as you said, there was no point, because the very first script in the very first clinic I was with, it wasn't worth the money, and there was no patient customer. There was no service, and the medical cannabis wasn't great, the quality and stuff. But nowadays, I've there's a new clinic opening every day. You know, near enough every day, and they've started to compete with each other with prices and stuff. You know, switch from a different clinic, you'll get free consultation or whatever and stuff. But I do feel that the people at the top of these, you know, the likes of the people that are already millionaires, what do they call themselves? The entrepreneurs. You know, the people that aren't cannabis people, they weren't maybe, you know, you say what we did 10 years ago, and they were like, oh, I was doing something else.
Yeah.
Have you ever smoked weed? No, no, no. I just see the green wave coming and jumping in. I do feel those sort of people, they exist, and it doesn't really matter if I've opened the lounge or not. I still feel as though those sort of people and that sort of industry, it's going to happen whether we're involved or not. So to be able to maybe reach out and grab on to the coattails of something, because I am very much a working class lad from Belfast, and I'll always be a working class lad. Doesn't matter how well anybody does, we all go in the hole in the ground at the end, you know, we're all the same, you know. So to see people in the industry, my eyes are wide open, you know, make no mistake, but the more people I can help, the better. The 2.5 years we've been open, I've seen more and more clinics, more and more dispensaries, more and more imports, more countries growing and things like that. There's talk of one opening here in Northern Ireland as well. So it definitely is the future. And I don't know how long it'll be. See what you're saying there about the nice future where, you know, cannabis is in the food supply and stuff. You know, before, like the people that are in charge of oil and coal and stuff, they're only sort of giving us the electric cars sort of now. Not even really, but sort of. But like, you know, they're not a new thing. And I'm sure the petrol and diesel engines, I'm sure they weren't a new thing when everybody was still getting the steam train and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But
I
even
think
even the electric, the hydro powers, things like that, everything's being held back until the people that are that are in charge of all these things are ready to give us it. So, how long do you think it would be before the likes of cannabis can be grown in your back garden and you're allowed?
I think ever sooner, the more we unite, the more we can parlay between ourselves. It's exactly that. I kind of, and maybe draw some people don't like this flack, but I imagine it's probably because of the hidden bigotry. But as a comparison of the LGBTQIA, we need a similar thing with cannabis. You can be hemp for all I don't believe it exists. Do you know what I mean? Actually, it's not a codified language in the UK. You get a low THC cannabis license. It's a colloquial term used by some to describe like the non-combustible, non-consumable industrial applications of the cannabis plant. And again, even that's my perception. I can't help, but I can't even use that word. But there are some people who are just that, but I want to be in the same group as them fighting for them. I can respect their fight and what they want to do, but they also have to respect me and my fight and what I do. And I think if we can bring ourselves together as genuine, sincere cannabis people, as you say, almost separated by the only question, what were you doing before 2015? So, or an arbitrary, we pick an arbitrary date or point that's not 2018, not the change of law when they could come out and be safe. What did you actually fucking do? And then we reward and push amongst ourselves. And I keep drawing this analogy again. It's nothing about us without us. We need our stonewall moment. We need to recognize that, yeah, it is an establishment that we need to fight against. We can't wait for them to fix the wrongs that they have done. They can't infiltrate us, come into our groups, and analogous as straight people come into a gathering of gay people and go, "Oh yeah, we were wrong. Here's the new rules." Like, fuck you. You don't get to talk to us. You have persecuted us. You've destroyed our lives. You have put our friends in the ground and in cages. You have lessened the opportunities and the hope and optimism of millions of people around this world. You don't get to dictate. So I think, as you say, they are inevitable. I had this conversation with, again, somebody I very much respect in the space, quite high up in one of the regulatory bodies in the UK, and they're feeling very disheartened. And I kind of said to them, look, I went through exactly where you are a couple of years ago, and where I've arrived at is they are inevitable. Legalization in that guise is going to fucking happen, but it's also not going to end cannabis prohibition. That's our job. We have to build that human rights case, that understanding that, as everybody does now, you can in your own head be as bigoted as you want and be like, I don't like those two men kissing over there. But you cannot then commit a hate crime against them and be bigoted against them. That's the same protection that I want for cannabis consumers, frankly, for all drug consumers in the end of the drug war. But cannabis is the linchpin, because once we tear that down, everything else falls. And it's recognizing again that the stigma is partly perpetuated by ourselves as well now. So one of the other issues that we've got is a lot of cannabis naive people coming in as patients with this legal protection and this supremacy of going, I've got mine, I'm safe, and I can go wherever I want and do whatever I want. And they're looking down. And then you see it in the Reddit forums and the r/medical cannabis and these different places online, where that group of individuals, these cannabis naive protected patients, are saying the reason they're held back is because of the legacy and the black market and these bad people. And they tar us all that we're all wrong and bad, that unless you have this piece of paper and a script, you must be a violent druggie that steals electricity, uses kids to grow fucking weed. Do you know what I mean? You put like spice in everything. All the worst connotations, when yes, that exists as a consequence of prohibition. So does this exploitative medical system. If you fully decriminalize and take us out of here, guess who's left in this pool? Legitimate people that fucking need it. Those kids would get their medications. People who need very bespoke treatments that we need to really break down these new synthetic cannabinoids for. That research and development should be in the pharmaceutical hands, should be in the medical realm. But frankly, and I'm sorry if this offends some people, I don't think we should be prescribing cannabis flower. There's no other medication comes in its floral form. Many things like aspirin is derived from the bark of the willow tree, I think, if I'm correct. But no one is getting willow bark sent to them. You go to the shop and you buy aspirin. Do you know what I mean? Every other medication is standardized in a way. Even the whole thing of like we're seeing now with people partnering with clinics and reviewing medical products. it doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. I don't know. That should be fine and exist over here, but that can't keep accelerating and growing when the vast majority of people are still locked out over here, and their
Yeah,
smell could get them arrested. Oh well, the smell would get them detained to get searched to then get arrested. But you know what I mean?
yeah. I definitely do. From my own experience, my prescription for cannabis, it decriminalizes me. I know because I've looked it up. I've done my own research. The Police Service of Northern Ireland, the PSNI, they have no medical cannabis policy. They only have a herbal cannabis policy. And when you ask them any questions officially, their resource is the NI Department of Health. And when you go to the NI Department of Health website and you type in medical cannabis, it says it was last updated July 2018. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's interesting because obviously, yeah, the DUP, the government has been dissolved for a few years. I mean, they've managed to get a restart deal recently.
that's their excuse. That's their excuse. See, when they say there was no assembly sitting, that's all well and good, but that doesn't mean that the building was closed and nobody was at work. They're still at work just because they're not sitting in their assembly. Whenever I talked to the police a few years ago, doing marches and stuff, and I was saying, "Oh, it's legal since 2018." Even when I opened the lounge, some of the police that I was talking to, they turn around and says, "Cannabis isn't legal in Northern Ireland." Oh, I didn't include Northern Ireland. The nice is what makes you say that, and it says because there was no sitting assembly in 2018, so that sort of motion couldn't have been passed. But I was there. I was physically up in the room. It's a motion called legislative consent. I got that all out in one. That's what the assembly would vote on, and because there was no sitting assembly, we were able
It's
to get
assumed.
we were able to get all the parties that made up the assembly to just write their own letter from the party to Westminster to say we want included in this, and lo and behold, we were included. So it's good from my own perspective that I have that background, that I'm able to look these people in the eye and be sensible and serious and say, this happened, and here's how it happened. Because when they go and look it up, it's there in black and white, that we're included, Northern Ireland was included. A lot of people just assume because there's no sitting assembly, there's no government is actually doing anything, and that's not the case. But when I did open my lounge, it's in Ballyclare, which is about 10 miles away from Belfast city centre. Belfast is very much a, a, um, I nearly said multicultural. Well, it's going that way because that's like Dublin. It's going multicultural, but it's mixed. It's a mixed city. It's a mixed area. Whereas Ballyclare would be more on the sort of unionist DUP sort of red, white, and blue side of things.
Mm.
Whenever I opened the lounge, I went round to the local DUP MLA in the area and I took round a copy of my prescription and a copy of Walter the Wizard and the Magic Seed, the children's
Yeah.
book. And I put my suit on and I made an appointment with him. I went round and that's the two things I put on the desk. And he turned around and he knew me from obviously from campaigning for law changes and stuff.
Mm.
When I sat down and explained to him, there's the book, there's my script, this is what I'm doing. The only thing they said was, listen, good luck. Just make sure there's no kids standing outside smoking any joints because there's a grammar school about 100 meters away.
Mm.
But that was the only thing they said, and that meant a lot to me because traditionally the DUP they would block things like that rather than
Mm.
support them. Now they're not going to officially come out and put it on their AGM agenda. Oh, by the way, here we now support the medical vape lounge. What they're actually supporting. And I got that from the BBC and the Belfast Telegraph as well. They're actually supporting the positive impact on the community's mental health. The
Mm.
people running about Northern Ireland are all depressed as hell, Simpa. They're depressed as hell. And if I can put something into one of the towns that's going to give them a wee smile for a couple of hours, or what has happened, people are coming in, and the next thing they're talking to another member and their friends, and they would come in. What are you getting on your script? And they're on the wee MedBud page that your guy runs. It's a brilliant page.
Mm.
It's a fantastic page. they're able to look and go, listen, I'm going to get this next month. If I get this, you get this. And then they meet up in the lounge, the next month, and they're able to discuss it. And because because there's so much available, and the prices keep coming down. At Tilray, that's £5 a gram at the minute. I remember being prescribed that not so long ago, and it was £15 a gram. And it wasn't all that long ago, and it was the same. It was exactly the same. Because the prices are coming down so much, people are now able to experience a lot more strains. They can be prescribed in 10-gram pots increments. So if they have a budget, say they go to a clinic, they say, look, here's my budget for the black market, and here's the sort of stuff that I want. It's how I want to feel. When I'm talking to my doctor, I tell them this is how I want to feel. The likes of heavy sativas and stuff, they trigger my anxiety. If I have a sativa too late in the day, I start to worry about what I'm doing the next day instead of chilling out and stuff. There is people like that do need those different strains, and they're just not available. But there's also people I've come into touch with, and they've said to me, what's your script for? And I'll say it's for anxiety and depression. And they'll say, oh, I'm like that as well. What's your strain? And I'll get it prescribed. What do you recommend? And at the very, very start, I naively said, here, this, and try that and all the rest of it. Till one day there was two lads, but they came back and they said they had panic attacks. And what I had actually prescribed them was my daytime strain. It was like an 18%. It wasn't even strong, but it really, really messed with these guys' heads. It made they couldn't get this. Like, I thought, like, are you allergic to cannabis here? The way they were saying. But I've had two people come back, and it's a really low tolerance for THC, like right off the bat. So I would always say too much of anything's bad for anybody, but there definitely is some sort of need for somebody. I'm not saying big pharma, but somebody to actually make a point of saying, right, listen, see all these hundreds of cannabinoids that are in the plant that, like, I can rhyme maybe 6 off before I have to go look them all up. We need to know what these all actually do, because see the likes of the entourage effect. I don't even know what that entails. I know it's everything, but I don't know what is exactly doing what and what cannabinoid is counteracting with which one. And those sort of things, that would interest me. I've grew one plant in my entire life, just because the opportunity was there. It was many years ago, but I wouldn't be going and growing my food or going and getting the tree bark, to make me aspirin or doing anything like that. I would very much rather be handed a bottle of oil. But also the other hand is, somebody said to me the other day, what strains in the oils? And I looked at them and I went, I don't know. And they went, well, is it indica? Is it sativa? And I went, I don't know. Ask the doctor. But I already know. Doctor's not going to know. Things like that. People with a passion for cannabis, I can see that can really, really. There's definitely there's opportunities there for something to be done, rather than just a whole pile of people funding clinics, licensing doctors, and people making loads of money, and we just go along as, like, the likes of people that are out there getting chinned every day buying cigarettes. The tax on a packet of cigarettes is ridiculous. You can't grow your own tobacco without a license. And because there was no prohibition against tobacco, I don't know what a tobacco leaf looks like. I haven't been scared into thinking, look at this leaf and everybody's smoking it, and whoa, but there's similarities to it, so horses for courses, and everybody's different, but definitely there is a medical need for it. But I would say in general, I don't see why it has such a harsh restriction, given, yes, the benefits and the competition it does give with the likes of applications for hemp and stuff. But in general, it's 2024. Wake up, people. Cannabis prohibition discriminates against humanity. Let's get change, proper change implemented.
100%, man. 100%. Very well said. You raised some very, very important points there, and I think I kind of work backwards if my brain will let me. It's so restrictive, I feel, because they want to keep the benefits of prohibition. And I don't mean, oh, that means they're getting rid of drugs and keeping children safe. No, that's not their benefit. We're on about social control, militarization of the police, over policing of fucking communities and areas that they don't like, disproportionate policing of racial minorities, fucking ethnic minorities, class minorities. Do you know what I mean? They want it to be skunking bad and be able to smash all these doors in and run around dressed up, like I say, literally in stab vest and riot gear and break your door down for a fucking plant. They want to keep that while them and their mates make money from just not just tax but also investment and being the other side. So it's the modern war on drugs through medicalization has become far more classist than it has racist. It obviously still has a massive racial dynamic, but the traditional classic prohibition, as it would be, prohibition classic, I'm thinking like Coke classic there. Yeah, that's much more racial, but now there is this financial dimension. And I think, as you say, the stopgap needs filling. I'm bigging you up here because I think you're in the right position. It needs to be on the high street, a connection, a bridge between the clinics and the limitations of the MHRA regulations of advertising and talking about drugs and prescription drugs in the UK. I know MedBud, unfortunately, you're going to have to put quite a lot of stuff kind of behind member walls because they're getting in trouble with MHRA for showing things about prescription medication stock levels, etc., which apparently you're not allowed to do, which, yeah, fuck them. But it's, I think someone like you said, there almost needs to be a training program so that when people come to these sign-up spots and these consumption spaces on the high street, you can talk to them about it, because people need to remember the way cannabis works is it's not, oh yeah, all these terpenes and all this. It's not how we understand cannabis. Cannabis is prescribed as, floral cannabis in the UK is prescribed as an off-label medication that is a cannabinoid delivery system specifically for two cannabinoids in ratio, CBD to THC. Anything else is considered a foreign contaminant. So the reason you're not prescribed based on terpenes or whatever is because the fucking powers that be, the money men that are connected to the American insurance medical health system, have spent a decade, 15 years here in the UK destroying homeopathy, destroying these alternative things that involve things like smells and stuff. And they're like, smells can't be medical. What do you want smells? Whereas, what do we know about terpenes now? What do you know when you walk in a forest and you go through a pine trees, you get an apinine? Same terpene you get from flowers. You get this lifting, and there is an actual quantifiable physiological and neurological effect from this. You have neurohormonal reactions. Your body literally goes, I like this. This, you know what I mean? That's a whole other part that they can't ever talk about under this current system. And it feels like they're prescribing to get, as I've said for years, folks, and I'm probably might get proved right, might get proved to be a conspiracy theorist. Either way, I'm quite happy. But I think that they're accruing data to then create designer drugs. You've got to remember, at last count, I think GW have 186 patents. 186. And obviously they were bought a couple of years ago by an oncologist specialist pharmaceutical company. And then you look and you go, that's interesting. They're not based in the UK, which means they're not restricted by the Cancer Act. And there's this whole snowball emerging of cannabis and cancer, but not flower and FECO, not what we know, where we grow all our plants and we just use a simple FECO extraction, and then you take as much or as little as you want, you build your tolerance and you build your own regiment, but we know the efficacy of that. They want to create designer drugs by partnering cannabinoids with fucking, what's the traditional treatment? It eradicates all your cells. Chemotherapy. They basically want to twin it and go, no, we're still going to kill every cell in your fucking body, but then we're hoping by putting the cannabis in, it'll restart it afterwards. They're missing the step. They still want, because chemo drugs are worth so much fucking money. It's the thing about the monetization. So again, that's why I say they're inevitable. Cannabis is going to go that way. Ketamine's going that way. MDMA, all the psychedelics, all illegal drugs are going that way. Just look at what's happening with cocaine, and I guarantee by 2026, at least 3 European cities are going to have legal cocaine trials. Bern is going to be one of them, and I reckon Amsterdam and Barcelona will be the other two. I'm putting that as a bet. So mark it in your calendar, please. Because of what I've seen coming out of Bolivia and Colombia. They're doing calculations, and basically they figured out in Bolivia in 2019, I think it was, they'd save somewhere in the region of like $500 million if the government just bought the cocaine from the cartels. Cartels would still make the same money. The government would save 500 million, and the government would have all of this cocaine. And the
Yeah.
UK is already, this statistic's out of date. This is 2017, I think. The UK at the time, and probably still is because I haven't really seen anything shift, although they have created a new drug called Numbrino, which is a cocaine nasal spray. So that might divert some of it. But at the time, we were the largest importer of medical cocaine in the world. We imported like 50 kilos like
Yeah.
plus a year, but then there's a mechanism you can follow for like distribution. And when I was diving down this rabbit hole, the distribution paperwork only accounted for like a handful of kilos.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, where did all this? Oh, it was destroyed during research and development. It's like, yeah, man,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm researching this. Yeah, it's like it's an so that's what I said. They're inevitable, but us on the high street collectively, the power of ourselves. Like you say, it's you've got. I think you said in the before we start recording, like 250 members now. You know,
Yeah.
some of the Northeast cannabis clubs. I think Fisher at Teesside, who's coming up as a guest very soon, folks. Tomorrow for me. I don't know when the hell you'll be seeing it. And Kush Tea up in Hartlepool, like they're hitting 900 members and they're a real self-sustained growing community, and obviously they're a bit that side of things, but they're on the grey area.
They're proper cannabis clubs. They're proper old school cannabis clubs.
But it's this is what I'm saying about bringing us all together in that umbrella.
Yeah.
We can all learn, and then we go, oh, if you can get away with that there, why can't we put that there? Why can't we put this there? Why can't, do you know what I mean? There is no such thing as competition. If anyone's thinking of I'm going to be the franchise and own 100, yeah, fuck you, you're a problem. But if everyone's like, no, my city, my people, here, let me help you build yours. But if you
Yeah.
then are going to turn around and crush mine, that's going to be a problem. But I think there's an Alan, a Simpa, a Michael, a Gary. I'm not going to name Kush Tea people for their own protections and for it's disrespectful because they're not public. There's that person in every town and city, and they
Yeah.
deserve an opportunity to build this thing like you are, to be proud and out on the high street, and ideally, in my world, serve all needs. So that the front face and there's your prescriptions and whatever else, and have a discretion and an ability to provide for the people that won't serve their needs. One of the main things I remind anybody in this space of as often as possible, for 20 fucking years, every doctor I saw called me a druggie, a waster, said every mental and physical health problem I had, even if I went with them with diarrhea, oh, it's because I smoke weed. It just didn't matter. I had a kidney infection when I went. It didn't matter. They would always address, "Oh, you're still doing the weed." And now them people, I've got to go grovel and go, can I please have some weed? Like, fuck off, no. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so that repulses me. The fact I'm bullied into continuing a script right now to get my autism assessment because the NHS go, your history of drug use here says you're a drug abuser, but
Yeah.
this magic pot says you're not during this window. But if you fucking don't pay for your pot, we'll discontinue your service. How insane is that? So as long as I'm paying a group of people that don't know cannabis, my doctors don't know shit. It scares me how little they know. Like it genuinely does scare me.
Well,
And they're in charge.
there's people in that situation over here, and whenever they do get their script, the history of drug use and now you've got a script for cannabis makes it worse for the patient. And in some instances, there's no point in me coming on here and saying it's brilliant when you get a script. Nobody is trained, no social services, the council, employers, nobody is trained in any of this. The police, they're not trained. When your HR types up what do we do when one of our employees has a prescription, it's a blank page. So, people that have went to their GPs and went, listen, I feel better and I've got this pot and all the rest of it. If they already have that, history of drug use, in some instances you'll get somebody up in the NHS that are just on a power trip and they'll go, oh, well, you're obviously still using your drugs and it's not licensed and blah, blah, blah. And it really makes the person feel like shit. It really does. So, I hear what you're saying, bro.
I had first-hand experience of that. Like I said, the reason I'm kept onto this pot is the psychiatrist that I saw for reevaluation. She accused me of gaming the system to get access to drugs.
Yeah.
And I basically went, you do know I grow weed, right? This is not an access issue or an exploitation issue. And then the same psychiatrist, when I was re-diagnosed with ADHD, which is like a childhood diagnosis I got that they apparently forgot to tell me because they were every time I saw them for 20 years, stop taking the drugs. I'm like, yeah, but I'm taking the drugs because my mental health is fucked because you people won't help me because you see me as a druggie. And so I ended up in that perpetual cycle. And then I was accused again by the same psychiatrist of, you are trying to get this re-diagnosis of ADHD to get stimulant drugs. And I pulled out my phone and I went, I can get 4 different people to drop cocaine in this room before the end of this appointment. Again, what are you on about? The bigotry, again, and the vitriolic way that she was like, And then she said, "Oh, I've done something. I've went to in research in our next appointment." She came in and threw thing at me and went, the one drug that I would be able to prescribe you because it's not a stimulant with your drug-seeking behavior or history of drug-seeking behavior is this one drug, but actually the study I've just presented you shows that cannabis reduces its efficacy, so I wouldn't feel comfortable prescribing you any drug. A week later, I check on my NHS online, and there's a fucking letter from that, I'm not going to ad hominem, individual that I despise. She'd put in the letter, Mr. Carter has refused further treatment. And so they tried to discontinue my care. So it's the bigotry. They'd have no right to do that lawfully. I could take them to a courtroom, bend them over backwards. I know that fucking the laws. But I don't have the time, and I'm stupid because, as you say, working class, love the fucking NHS. I'm alive because of it. I continue to be alive because of it. It is a system that needs to be funded, that needs to be at the forefront of this. Look, the world is falling apart. Park America, where it's a for-profit scam, but opioids as a global painkiller are not cool anymore. It's not. I'm trying to think of the word that I was thinking of. It's not vogue. Do you know what I mean? They're not in fashion. And so what replaces this? What has all of the academic research been saying for 30 years? Where are all the patent investments and research development grants going? It's toward cannabinoids. So like I said, they're going to switch up and take this system. And the more patients we onboard, and this is where I worry about being a prescription holder, is every time I give them money, I'm taking money out of the NHS's pocket. Because in my vision, and I pitched this to fucking Jeremy Corbyn and his son Tommy, granted a bit naively, but I'd like to think in some way it probably had the reason why he ended up with a business called NHS, the National Hemp Service. I said during their sort of preamble, the NHS needs to become a cannabis company. You need an offshoot. The NHS grows weed, so you decriminalize across the board all cannabis-related offences, and you create a legal, regulated, taxed commercial system. And that system is supplied by a national cannabis ministry and bureau, which is twinned with the NHS. So it grows all this quality cannabis, sells all this commercially to so-called recreational consumers, and that offsets all the access for all of the patients. So then cannabis is free on the NHS for oils and topicals and fucking capsules and things like that for, I don't hate the word, but like legitimate medical need, accepted medical need.
Yeah.
And anything else, you can get high quality cannabis at a good price that's regulated. Then, again, don't really trust the government too much, but under a different guise, maybe I would have, but that was my idea. So we use cannabis to refund the NHS. Look, there's billions are made on it already. Cannabis has been taxed along with every other drug and the sex trade in the UK, including Northern Ireland, since 2011. We pay a bill of like 1.1 billion a year of an assumed economic loss to these industries. If we put cannabis back into it, like I said, and took the tax and that from that, the stimulation of that, or a chunk of that, could automatically go to the NHS. But then a system like this or a mechanism like this, granted, the problem is it's far more Uruguay and their attempted system, what they tried to create, than it is Canada and about exports and huge companies and massive conglomerates and IPOs and all the rest of it. It's a much more people-focused thing. And I think that's what we need for the next few years is, like you say, cannabis people in charge of the cannabis community and cannabis industry and the way that it goes. And then once we've got our ground, then the investors can come and go with their nice suits and all their money and have that conversation with us. But they don't get to set it up first, fuck it up, continue to throw my friends in fucking jail, raid our people, destroy our communities and vilify our lives while they still get rich but still fuck it up.
And the will still fuck it up. I would love to see that sort of change and that sort of boost. unfortunately, my own personal view, I believe that the Conservative Party have been dismantling the NHS for a long, long time.
Mhm.
When I talk to people in my community now, it's not that they don't go to their health centre to see a doctor, they think that they're not allowed. You know,
Yeah.
you're saying, have you seen the doctor? Go to the doctor, and they're like, "Aye, but sure, you have to phone and all, and you have to get a call back, and you only talk." And you're like, "Did you not
Mhm.
physically walk down to your health centre? It's open." And they're like, "Aye, but you're not allowed." And you're like, "Where are you hearing that?"
Mhm.
Um, all roads go back to the plastic thing sitting in your living room that all your furniture's pointed at. A lot of people that I see down there and about my community, you can just tell. You're like, you watch a lot of TV, mate, don't you? I can tell. You know, as long as the government have that mouthpiece blasting into everybody's ears, you
Mhm.
know, the likes of the nurses out on strike, even over here in Belfast, the nurses, the hospitals, just before the pandemic hit, they were all out striking. And, you know, that's nurses in a hospital having to stand out in the street because they're not getting paid enough.
Mhm.
And a couple of months later, everybody thought it was brilliant to stand out their back and applaud, you know.
Mhm.
And you're like, is that their pay rise? So, you know, it's the TV and the radio and the newspapers is a very, very powerful tool, and I see it being used against us a
Mhm.
lot to keep us divided. You know, the crack, divide and conquer, especially the cannabis community, recreational, medicinal, grow your own, all that stuff. It's all the same thing. You know,
Mhm.
cannabis is cannabis, and I totally agree with you about eating it. I believe that cannabis should have a place on your Sunday dinner plate beside your broccoli. Get it on there and get it into you. Not everybody likes to smoke. I enjoy smoking. I don't really drink anymore. I enjoy smoking, but given the opportunity, what I would rather do, I would rather have the oil to regulate myself. I feel like when we first opened, my wife was calling me Basil Faulty for the first couple of months that we were open. And I thought, you know, just because, you know, we were man and wife and all the rest of it. So it turns out it was because I was being an ignorant fucker that maybe one out of every four people that come in, but I didn't know. I was
Mhm.
just being massaged. She goes, listen here, people are coming in here looking for help and you're being a cheeky bastard sometimes.
Mhm.
When I use the oil, I take half a mil in the morning and half a mil at night, and I don't get high and I don't feel high, but I feel like I'm a better version of myself. So whenever I do meet whoever it may be, I know that I'm gonna be able to be pleasant, nice and pleasant. Like everybody has their bad days, you know. But the vaping side of things. Vaping is instant relief if you are in pain or if you are fully stressed and you need to calm down. You can use your vape and the vape goes straight into your lungs, straight into your bloodstream, but it won't last as long as a consistent dose of oil. Um, but that's sort of what I would look to. The capsules,
Mhm.
the vape carts, the companies that I've spoke to that are asking about vape carts, I've told them all the same thing because it's dollar signs, man.
Mhm.
It's so popular out there. The vape carts on the black market are so popular.
Mhm.
People come in and ask me for them all the time. Do you have any THC vapes? I'm looking at THC vape. Um, to the point now where some of the companies have got in touch going, what do you think of them? Because there is vape carts available and they're shite. That's what I told them, but that's not even the point. The main thing that I'm making, the main point that I want to make, see a vape cart, you get your vape cart and you've got a pot of your cannabis or you've got a bottle of oil, the label tells you your dose. So you're able to weigh out your cannabis flower or you're able to use a syringe and
Mhm.
dose yourself with oil. See, when you're vaping just off a vape cart, you've absolutely no idea how much of your medicine you're actually taking at that one time. You're just literally vaping for the sake of it. So the likes of vape carts and capsules as well, I don't really see being a big, massive. People like edibles. People don't want to smoke, but that's not really.
Yeah.
It's not really a. If you want to eat sweeties, just go and buy sweeties. There's no. I don't get the whole making wee fizzy cola bottles.
Mhm.
Edibles sort of thing. There's other things you could do with edibles. There's a fella in Belfast. He's very passionate. He's a chef, but he's very passionate about his cannabis. And I've had discussions with him before about medicated pizzas. And I said, this is that would literally take off massive, big time if you were able to actually, put it out there properly.
Mm.
But, things like that is what I mean. See, actual proper food. Like maybe being able to go to wherever you buy your food. If you're not into growing your own food, you should be able to go and buy a bottle, maybe not a bottle of tomato sauce, but maybe a bottle of cannabis sauce.
Mm.
Why not? It shouldn't be.
Like I said, it's sort of horses for courses, isn't it? I'm thinking the capsules would thrive well in, say, Holland and Barrett. People that are
Mhm.
used to taking as part of their routine capsules. A lot of people, dependent on the oil. I mean, I am a big proponent of MCT. I think it is the best carrier oil for the science. I think it
Yeah.
has the best flavor. It has best sort of mouth feel, doesn't linger. A lot of people are still using traditional like cannabis seed oil and things like that. And it just,
Mhm.
over time, it can people can get an aversion to sort of the flavor. At least we've moved quite a long way away from, I suppose, almost closer to the laudanum days of using alcohol to suspend fucking cannabis in, because that becomes very destructive over time. I mean, talk to your average MS patient that's had experience with Sativex over time. I've had a few goes of Sativex, and it is not a pleasant fucking feeling to have to do that multiple times a day for the rest of your life, effectively, as your choice of like. No, it is. I think the vape carts again. It's out of the fucking box. Rishi and the plan to fucking criminalize them in the UK, get rid of disposables and shit. Fucking ridiculous. All that's going to do is make them far more unsafe. The
Mhm.
number of cloned products, and I know this from dealing with the number of places my email address has been and my phone number goes. So the number of group chats I end up in and whatever. And I see these people going, "Oh, I'm in Michigan and we've got X amount of fucking tons of biomass." This guy and this goes, "Oh, if we call it this, we can get it there. Then I'll turn it to this. Then you turn it this, and we'll send it there. And then boom, we'll be rich off HHC." It's
Mhm.
like there's just like it's the money men and this movement, and in it it's so much cheaper and makes so much more sense if you are an unscrupulous individual to produce a delta 8 than it is a full extract delta 9.
Mhm.
It's just chemically so much. I'm not going to tell the process, but everyone who knows the process already knows the process and is continuing to grow the process, grow awareness of it. But basically, yeah, through simple or quasi simple chemistry, you can convert all of these things. And basically, people are taking cheap, like I said, CBD biomass, even literally mountains of stalk, and it's stripping, and you run it through a process. Because I mean, stalk can give, dependent on the plant, 2 to 10% fucking cannabinoid distribution
Mhm.
from
Yeah.
studies that I read in 2018, anyway, and even higher, I suppose, in the newer generation plants. And yeah, they're getting that CBD biomass, and then, like I said, they're converting it. You can now convert it from modified yeasts. I heard there's a program, somebody using the similar process that they used for E. coli to create aspartame, which has just changed its name to something else that I can't remember, but it is a very contentious, potentially cancerous and dangerous artificial
Mhm.
sweetener. And so I just, again, we're not going to be able to stop those vapes. What they need to be able to do is create a cheaper, abundant, cleaner, healthier product, and then mass education and awareness. I don't touch anybody's vape carts. I don't touch any. I touch flour. I touch flour because I know flour. I can break it up and I can see it. I can smell it. Do you know what I mean? I can. There's a multitude of points that I can reassure myself and make the best guess as to whether I want to consume that. Like
Mhm.
as Uncle Kush said a few weeks ago, follow your nose. It's literally, it'll never lead you wrong. You walk in and go, and you see these jars, the one that goes, oh, that's the one you want. Your body knows. So you need to be closer to that experience, which again is why I want to see places like yourself become dispensaries. If we have to
Yeah.
keep the medical system and you're already doing sign-ups and signposting people and then selling them the equipment and giving the space for them, you should have like sample jars. There should be an opportunity for people to go, well, yeah, that's the one. Because looking at the random names and trying to figure out, is it irradiated? Isn't it irradiated? What country did it come from? What's the politics and ethics of that? What's the carbon footprint? What's the da-da-da? How old is it going to be? Like, I mean, I'm not going to grasp on the clinic, although you can work this out because I've obviously mentioned who they are previously. I got a package that was a week dated recently, 1 week till it was out of date. The other package I got, we ran out 31st of May 2025.
Oh, all right.
So it's
That's
just,
different, sir.
but as the clinic, the pharmacy that rang me and got quite worried, sort of said to me, there is no legal difference if the product is in date or out of date. If your prescription is valid, it's
Yeah.
valid. So it's again, it shows the fragility of these systems where they kind of don't care. They just want you in as a customer,
Yeah.
and it's the same as like your bud tender upselling you. You
Yeah.
go in, you goes, oh, you like that blue dream last week? Oh, we've got this blue whatever this week, and you know, it's not the same as a doctor, a knowledgeable, boring go in and the doctor's like, and you can see he spent 50 years just all he is medicine. Do you know what I mean? And he can tell you exactly what the thing. I want that. If it's going to be medical,
Yeah.
I want to be able to defer to their expertise, but they can't know what we know yet because it isn't in academia.
Yeah.
There aren't courses to learn what we learned. We learn our shit on the street. We qualified in the University of Life, and those degrees are only available through lived experience. You can't fake it, phone it in, pretend to be it. So I think we're going to win in the long term. As you say, I'm hoping for you to be. I don't know what your life plan is, but I hope for you to be there for 25 fucking years. Do you know what I mean? To be an
Hopefully.
institution in moving forward in the future. I think the people that can establish their flag into the ground today, like at this real crazy time of a grey area, have the best opportunity for whatever comes next. And I guarantee you, whatever comes next will not be the end.
Mm-hmm.
Legalization will not shut me up, and I know the majority of people that I work with, even adjustments to the medical system will not do it. The true liberation of every cannabis consumer, at least in this country, that's
Mm-hmm.
the minimum for me. There should be
Yeah.
no criminalization, no vilification, unless it's a commercial dick. Like it's a guy that runs a company that went, oh, yeah, I know that's moldy, but let's run it through the irradiated machine and sell it anyway. Yeah, criminalize those fucks. Yeah,
Yeah.
criminalize the people that then are spraying um, spice and synthetic cannabinoids on stuff in our market supplies, 100%.
Yeah.
But genuine, sincere people, I had a joke with somebody I met up with the other day. We were giggling, and it was about paying for parking, and we were both getting really stressed about wanting to do the right thing about paying for parking, and we just kind of looked at each other and giggled like, "What we do? We're druggies. We're bad. We're criminals. We're horrible people. Yeah, we're getting annoyed because we want to do the right thing and pay the. It's not for we get in trouble. It was this is an independent car park. That sign says the thing, but the machine. How do you know what I mean? We were stuck in
Yeah.
this kind of wanting. We most cannabis consumers, legacy cannabis. We're good fucking people.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We won't break the laws that we respect because they actually mean something and are of value. But the
Mm-hmm.
cannabis rules are just. They're an affront to our very existence. They are bigotry in their nature, bigoted in their
Yeah.
nature, rather.
Well, I would have I agree with you on the car parking thing. I'm the same, but in my head I'm like if I do something stupid here, then maybe in an hour and a half or something, like a bird's gonna shit in my head or something, or I'll get a flat tire. That's sort of what goes through my head.
Mm.
But the lounge is really it is very unique. When I opened it, from then right till now, I'm getting several messages every week from a whole pile of random people, and they're all saying the same thing. Um, that was my idea.
Yep.
I was about to open one of them, or how I want to open one. How do you do it? That's the three sort of things I get every week, and my answer is the same. Get a prescription, get yourself a room to sit in, and open your door. And from then, it's sort of they whittled themselves down to the people that actually were serious about it. But then I became to notice the likes of a lot of head shops were people that already had shops because I worked in a factory. I'd never been a self-employed shop owner before in my life. The thought of it, even if you had got previous me in 2018 and went here, do you want to scare the life out of me? But oh, what was I say? Oh, I hear, by the way, cannabis affects your short-term memory, dude.
I make that joke at least once an episode.
Yep, there it goes.
You were saying
Um,
about the head shops
yeah,
sort of opening up into lounges.
a lot of already established small businesses like head shops, coffee shops, and stuff, CBD shops, started to put a vaporizer on a wee table at the side of the shop and say we are now a dry herb vape lounge or whatever.
Mm.
That's all well and good, but those sort of people, in my personal opinion, they're profit driven. They're already profit driven, and the more I speak to them, the more they eventually will turn around and say, "Right, how are you making money? How how do I make money at this? Tell me how you are making money so that I can do it here." But the person that's asking me that is already a small business. They've had a shop for a long time. So to ask me, who's only a couple of months in, to actually be, having all these responsibilities and paying rent and rates and talking to the council, asking me how to make money at a small business, doesn't make sense to me. It showed me that those people, they're not serious about cannabis. They're not. The people that have approached me about opening a vape lounge, that have asked me, do you have any sort of advice, or do you have any what to do, what not to do? If they're a medical cannabis patient and that's all, and they're serious and they're enthusiastic about it, then that's the sort of person that I can see maybe in the future actually having these lounges. I don't know how long there'll be dry herb vape lounges for. Majority of my time referring people to clinics and stuff, that's not going to last forever. We can't sell cannabis. So at the minute, I'm selling the vaporizers,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not going to last forever. Um, even if we had a doc, say we had a doctor, a cannabis prescribing doctor sitting next door or up the stairs or whatever, or sitting in his car out the back on his laptop, working from home, even if we had a doctor prescribing, we still would need ticked off as a pharmacy to be able to actually dispense. The thought of dispensing in my head, Simpa, I don't want a white coat or all them wee labels or stand at the back of boots with all them people that think they're doctors. I'm not into that at all. I don't even want to stand. I don't even want to stand
Well, I
in the
mean,
shop,
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, but there's definitely something that's going to come out of this. Definitely, I would like to. My landlord is definitely, he's pro cannabis. Moving into Belfast City, I need to find a cannabis friendly landlord. I honestly never thought that I would say to so many people, do you not like money? And I'm talking about rent. When I'm talking to a landlord and they're like, I hear, what is it you're doing? The unit's been lying there for ages. What are you doing? And I'm like, medical cannabis. I would help people get a script for medical cannabis, and they would look me up, and then there would just be no response at all. To me, and you're like, well, hold on a minute. Do you not like, you said your unit's sitting there empty. Do you not like having money for it? Here's rent. There's rent sitting here. There's potential. The likes of PAX, um, they're very, very supportive as well of the lounge. Anytime that I'm ordering anything off packs, there's always like posters and things to give away and promotional things that come with it. And the clinics that I do talk to, they're 50-50. Some of the clinics are really good, and they're really good. They work really well with their patients, and they answer the phone. A human answers the phone. Other clinics, there's people waiting ages on their script. They're being told that they don't have a choice. You can only get this amount, and all, they're not being told, like, you're paying a private clinic for a service. Like the normal private clinics that are on the high streets, if you do go to one of them, you're paying a lot of money for a service. And see if you found out that maybe the doctor or the staff only told you 50% of what you're actually entitled to, or the way it works or whatever, you'd be raging. You'd be straight up again going, here, give me my money back. So there is a lot of clinics that are like that. The first couple, I'm not on here to name and shame or to big up any sort of company. They're all big pharma in my eyes, all of them. If we can, as I said earlier, grab onto the coattails of some of these high flying big industry companies, then happy days. And I do see that being a foundation for the likes of the vape lounge, the likes of the cannabis clubs. I would love to see them come out from the underground, but unfortunately, they're safer where they are at the moment. But slowly but surely, the police came into my lounge at the start of December, last December there. So it was only a couple of months ago, officially. I know they've been in and out unofficially, I know that. They come in officially, they says, we've seen that you're in the news, the BBC, and our inspector sent us round to see what's going on. And I says, right, okay, come on in, sit down. They were there for about 2 hours, but for me to be able to tell you that the police don't have a policy for medical cannabis, that's because I asked them what is going on with them, and they told me. And it was a real refreshing conversation to be able to sit down. Again, you're talking about cannabis in a positive way with people that are there, then they need to know. I'm able to say to them, listen, 90% of the people I'm talking to, they're vulnerable. You know, they can be took advantage of. And before cannabis was made legal, the likes of the vulnerable people, when I say they're vulnerable, I mean these are people that they're very easily took advantage of by the likes of black market dealers that would say, listen here, I'll throw you a couple of grams extra if you let me use your address. And then the next thing, there's all sorts arriving at your house, or they're just using their house. You know, me and my mates are going to come around and use your house for a day and all this. You know, and those sort of people, they're taken advantage of by the organized crime and stuff. So that is the majority in my eyes of people that I'm able to help. The people that, you know, I'm not saying I'm brains of Britain or anything, you know, but I have a bit of common sense and being able to maybe spot somebody that even see, this is what I mean, Simpa. I'm not a doctor, but I'm sitting on the high street talking to people that I know I could take advantage of very, very easily, about 5 or 6 times over. So I do believe I am doing a service to the community. I've got cannabis on the high street, but where it goes from there is entirely up to everybody else.
I've after we finish wrapping up this, let's have a conversation. I've got some very interesting points and some things to share with you. But yeah, we'll park it there for a second. But yeah, I think again, what you're doing is brilliant and will be respected because of that. The clubs that have been allowed to continue to exist in the UK are not profit driven. They obviously make enough money to survive and sustain their staff and their models,
Yeah,
but they are seen statistically, provably, anecdotally, directly to be affecting for the better their direct communities. Because as you say, people then meet other people. It reduces the bad people being able to exploit those people and creating more, deprivation, more issues within that sort of socioeconomic situation.
yeah,
And I think the space will evolve. People are, as I say, they're getting the script because the script is their option. They're getting the vape because the vape is their option. They're coming to you because they want to be with each other. It's community is the answer. This is why the clubs were so viciously attacked. That's why I think there was such a malicious campaign that was undertook in the lead up to the 2018 sort of legal change, legislative change that divided the community so viciously that, again, I hold my hand up for. I played a part in. There was just so much fuckery, so many people like literally setting each other up, the amount of misinformation, the amount of people, funding events and things like this to discredit others. It became such a minefield. But I think
yeah,
now these lounges, these spaces, they are a lighthouse in the darkness on the high street. And this is why I say they should be everywhere until there is a chain that illuminates the UK. Do you know what I mean? It's people want to be with each other and to, as you say, to feel safe, to taste the future. The reason, like myself, I'm going to Cannabis in a couple of weeks. The reason some people are traveling 10,000+ fucking miles to Spain is to taste that freedom. Granted, there's obviously the current crackdown and some potential on the clubs and whatever, but inside Cannabis, that is people just having an average weekend in the reality they want to live in. And again, I think whether it be a cannabis club, a herb space, whatever, a lounge, sorry, or consumption space, or harm reduction center, whatever guy's language, the thing is the same. It's people that consume cannabis that feel insecure and unsafe in their life. And I don't say that as a point of weakness. I mean that they are under
yeah,
fucking threat, literally. And I say this is quite, I believe, quite a strong individual. But every time I see a blue light or hear a siren, even when I'm sat in my office, still, it's like, oh shit. I take comfort actually when I hear the siren, because then it's like, they turn the siren off if they're coming for me. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But we have to think and live in that way, and in those spaces we don't. It's like having trans inclusive spaces, queer inclusive spaces, and I think as I keep bringing up on previous episodes, I'll bring up the thing of where are the best nightclubs in every city across Europe? They're the gay bars. When we launch, can be truly let go as a cannabis culture, where are the best fucking clubs and spots and evening spaces going to be? They're going to be cannabis spots.
yeah,
We are the culture. We are the new wave of the future. 25% of Gen Z, obviously not Gen Alpha, because I think they're only about 14 at this point, but if Gen Z don't drink, they're teetotal. Yeah, they
right,
take a
yeah,
lot of other drugs. They like their ketamine, they like their MDMA, they
yeah,
like their mushrooms and their cannabis. And so we can see we're just going through an adjustment in society where the older generation drink and they have their pubs, and that's why we're losing like 20 of them a week across the UK. Nightlife venues, nightclubs, etc. Because of the constant crackdown on drug use and all of the drug dogs and everything else. A third to half of those venues have gone in the past 3 years alone. Like comedy decimated. There are no fucking spaces for stand-up comedians. Even like the Gala down in Durham near me, I think is
Yeah.
hosting about 12 events, 14 maybe this year.
Yeah.
It's in like there is no space. Granted, part of that is cost of living. It isn't a crisis. It's a manufactured robbery because they printed 800 billion for their mates and just robbed us blind during COVID. There is that kind of issue. Whereas again, people have enough to spend on cannabis and these drugs. So wouldn't it be better if we're buying from each other and putting the money back in each other's pockets rather than multinationals taking our money and fucking off, or Albanians taking our money and fucking off, or triads taking our money and fucking off, or even English people taking our money and fucking off to Spain or Thailand or wherever. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody at this point is impoverishing our communities. Whereas people like yourself that are like, boom, no, this is us. This is where I grew up. This is my shit. That money, it's not the billions and the millions and we need to. That's what they don't see it as profitable like that. That's why those head shop guys are coming to you and going, "Where's the money?" Because they need to see these things. Whereas your profit is not physical. It's physical. It's how you feel. It's how you make others
100%,
feel.
man.
Do you know what I mean? And
100%.
you know the money will come eventually. And like I said, I think I've got a few ideas, which I'm more than happy as always to share. But there is that. There is no ceiling once we can get people to understand who we are, what we represent. And like I said, we're just humble people that have been criminalized, vilified, and forced under rocks. And now we're just trying to step out into the light, to live a normal life, to be accepted by society, to live without prejudice.
That's it, man. That's beautiful.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man. I'm actually going to look at my notes for the first time in an hour and a half and see what we're going to discuss. Oh, the company in Belfast is called Growth Industries Pharma Limited.
Yes.
They've announced that they expect to open this year, or at least break ground this year. But I know for several other cannabis facilities across the UK, they've pitched this year several times before, and it's taken more. Although I think Hilltop have finished their facility, but I don't think Glow have yet. Something else on my notes here.
Growth industry guys. I've been speaking with them. They're great guys. They're very, very interested in cannabis. But again, it's the guys funding it at the top. Their background isn't cannabis. But where they want to enter the market is having a grow, a clinic, and a pharmacy dispensary all in Northern Ireland, because there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Even the clinics that I talk to that are saying, what do you want to see in Northern Ireland? I'm like, a brick and mortar clinic. See, because of the Zoom calls that the doctors are doing and the next day delivery that some of the pharmacies are running here, it's hard for me to pitch a need for it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But the likes of Gara Fat Growth Industries, I would dare to say you're talking late 2024. Late 2024, I would say they'd be breaking ground, but they're very, very determined, very determined. They've put a lot of money into changing what business they were already in to suit the cannabis. So here's one for you. Just it's sort of my part of the world is like DUP land. It's like Jurassic Park. So the likes of Growth Industries announcing we're going to do a big grow. Now I've had a look at it. It's fantastic setup and it's indoor. But see, when they announced I were going to do, all these politicians from the DUP started to go, oh, here, there's going to be a real bad smell. Everybody around in the houses near beside them are all going to get high and all the rest of it. But they didn't take into account that 5 mile away, they just opened a new incinerator that is billowing out God knows what into the atmosphere. And 5 miles from that, so it's like a triangle. 5 miles from that, they've just opened a new crematorium. and there's a fair whiff out of that, Simpa. So, you know, these are the sort of things that are blocking the road bumps. They're just,
Mm.
in my own personal opinion, I feel like somebody's waiting here. My palm's empty. Cross my palm with silver, please, and I won't slow down your process, sort of thing. But that's my own personal opinion. But so from announcing these things are going to open to them actually opening, I can take it from me. There's definitely work being done in the background, but all these wee stupid red tape and road bumps, they're coming out of left field all the time. But yeah, as I was saying, I would dare to say you're talking late 2024, and I'm gonna be all over that, like white on rice, my friend. I grow in Northern Ireland, the only grow in Northern Ireland, you know. So I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, no, I think that's what I want to see. It's local weed for local people, and I don't
Yeah.
mean that to exclusion. What I mean is that anybody can come from anywhere, but cannabis can be grown fucking anywhere. It's a goddamn weed. Like as
Weed.
I said yesterday, it's grown quite big, guys. It's
I said that yesterday. It's a weed.
yeah, I joked on last week's episode that I went in the kitchen the other day and there was just a cannabis plant growing out of one of my what do they call it, avo palms on the windowsill. So I've got loads of house plants everywhere, and I guess every now and then when I find like random seeds, especially like last year, I gave away like thousands of fucking seeds. We were just bagging them and giving them away at events and stuff. So I've ended up with them all over my floor, all over the like in the house. They just trip over seeds. They're obviously low THC cannabis seeds. So I've obviously shoved that in there at some point, and then because of the light cycle, it's gone over winter at some point, and then it's just triggered and sort of developed. And yeah, it's about that big this morning. So I think I'm gonna let it grow a little bit longer and just have it there. But it just shows again the versatility of it. Because it's not about, I mean, for them, the investors, they're going around the world. There's this group of people that are funding the Canadian movement, the American movement, the Israeli, the Australian movement. They're all the same people. The investors connecting all of them, it's all the same people, all the anglicized, westernized bunch of motherfuckers. It's the same legacy investment people. And they're going around the world, you know, knocking on Zimbabwe and going, how cheap can we make a gram here? All right. Lathos? Oh, all right. Oh, let's go to South America. We'll have a look there. And they're like, oh, 10 cents a gram. You're the man. And so they want to get it at 10 cents a gram here, and they then don't care that the logistics and the carbon footprint of then, send it to Israel, get packaged, and then move it to the UK, then we'll repackage it. Like they don't seem to understand those logistics. That negates the carbon sequestration of cannabis. Do you know what I mean? There's a project in South America where they've built a warehouse, filled it with loads of fucking cannabis plants, and they just grow them through a veg cycle and harvest them.
Yeah.
And they feed them on wastewater, so the roots create then grey water to clear water. So they put dirty water in. They have fans on the side of the building that suck in carbon from the atmosphere to feed the plants, and then they burn them in a carbon incinerator to then use that carbon capture to feed more plants. And it's almost like a full 100% energy system.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Based on cannabis. I mean, there are other, as me and Trev often talk of, you could put other mechanisms into that to generate profit if you put them through the flowering cycles and generated an oil reduction like a system to take the trichomes or whatever and then burn the biomass. It's like that to me is you open one of them, a huge one hidden as the facade of a building like an Amazon warehouse or whatever on the outskirts of every major city, and then that's carbon negative. Like there's so many different things that we could look at, or even like I said, if you're just growing, there's 10,000 people in this area, and I don't know, every person is growing 5 plants of their own outside. Do you know what I mean? That's what, 1,000,000 plants, 5 million plants. Damn it, I should have picked better numbers. That was somebody do the math there, but you know what I mean. It's all of those plants are then going to sequester a certain amount of carbon.
Yeah.
My point is being that rather than us going into having like carbon taxes and being charged to drive into different cities or the 15-minute idea or any of this crap, it's literally like, no, we just grow plants in our garden that we then use for our medicine. So then I'm not paying you to ship medicine from Zimbabwe to the UK, and I'm sequestering carbon, and I get the fibrous material.
And you're probably getting chinned about £10 a gram for it as well.
And you're renutrifying the soil in your back garden. You're promoting biodiversity. You're promoting mycorrhizal connectivity. An American study found that cannabis is a late season pollen source for bees. So it's like it's a win, 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 win. But we need to rewild cannabis to save the world. But in order to rewild it, so teenagers aren't, breaking into somewhere and stealing that cannabis, is you have to make it worthless. And that's what scares the big boys. They're like, no, 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 no. It's only £10 a gram now, but yeah, when the market's settled, people will be paying 150 quid a gram for my bespoke craft hand grown. Like, no, fuck you guys. Cannabis is cheap as shit, and you can grow a quality weed for cheap. Once you take your labor out of it, is the majority cost.
Yeah.
It just is. Once you've established and paid for all your equipment, paid for all your nutrients, you only pay in electric and water on that cycle. That's it. And if you're a good grower and you're getting your gram a watt or above, you're not paying much, son. So don't come at me with blah, 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 blah. Like, that money is being, you are choosing to make that money. We could produce cannabis like trillions of plants.
Yeah.
And it just being, like I said, worthless almost. So then it's the waste is a biofuel. So petrol's then a byproduct. Do you know what I mean? And all petroleum plastics would be a byproduct of us just enjoying ever cheaper weed. Like, the economics don't make sense. They're trying to create monopolies and strangleholds, as you say, in each industry. Whereas cannabis, as a plant, she is so intelligent. She fits into everything. The timber industry are going, oh shit, cannabis. The plastic guys are going, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. The energy storage people, the lithium guys, shitting themselves. It's like cannabis replaces everything, as you spoke of before. That it is this need for greed. That's a different kind of movie. Need for speed, need for greed. Of these guys that is fucking the world, because the initial diesel engine was designed to run on sunflower seed oil and cannabis seed oil. It was Rudolph Diesel and fucking Henry Ford, and they were supposed to get together to create this concept, because Henry Ford was like, don't destroy the tree, dig up the oil that took centuries in the making and destroy the forests. Don't destroy. So dig up the oil that took millennia in the making, destroy the trees that took centuries to grow, when you can grow all we need in the fields. And he was basically sort of talking about, because he was on the carbon composite body was flax, soybean, and cannabis.
Yeah.
That was the original sort of body of it. It was like 2,000 pounds lighter than any of the metals that they were looking at. And then, they discovered the way they'd made the engine so that it would run off the bio oils that were created, bioethanols that were created from, again, waste product of this. So you separate the fibrous material, have the fucking physical car. Obviously, you still need rubber and various other things. And Ford did some horrific things with indigenous folk and rubber. So I'm not celebrating Ford entirely for that. I'm just for this anecdote. They could have grown the body of the car and then fueled it with the byproduct while re-nutrifying and CO2 capturing. Whereas we've ended up with a system that destroys the environment, pushes out more CO2, and is more toxic. It's like we had the answer that could have led us one way, and we've gone this. Whereas now I feel technologically there is a lot of research and development around new combustibles. Obviously, the Formula One is going to be moving towards fully synthetic ethanol, which is supposed to be like carbon neutral, which I'm not sure I understand the science there. I need to look into. Yeah. But again, cannabis biofuels, like I said, their impact in comparison to some of these other things is negligible.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely, 100%. I know plenty of hemp farmers over in this part of the world, and they are looking at things like hempcrete. When the start of the hemp, the CBD boom and all the rest of it, everybody wanted to make CBD oil, but with people now that are actually, they showed me their plan, their step-by-step plan. They want to make hempcrete to make houses and stuff to replace concrete and things like that. I contacted the Home Office when I opened my lounge and told them, I says, I want to put a hemp plant in the lounge, just one, and have it at the back of the room like like in a primary school class where you have a wee science project or a wee pet or something. In my head, I'm like, people come in here and I can say, I went water the plant or away and read something about it, and there's one in front of you. And I says, what sort of license do I need for that? And the home office, they says back, they says, you don't need a license. And I says, what do you mean? Sure, it's a hemp plant, it's a cannabis plant. And they said, unless it's industrial, they says, unless it's industrial, all you need to show us is that it's a good idea for you to do it. And I said, so what, like a presentation about putting a plant in the shop? And they went, make it sound really, really good. You won't need a license. We'll just give you permission. So I said to her before the end of the call, I says, and what happened? What if it was a high THC yield plant? She says, well, it would be the same. So that didn't make sense to me at
I
all.
think it would fall under the research development sort of angle of it, that if it
Yeah.
was for education purposes, I imagine they'd probably have some stipulation of regulation, like, oh, it's got to be behind glass. It's got to like not be accessible X amount from the road surf, like the
Yeah.
front window, etc. Um, yeah, 'cause I
It
mean,
was a weird conversation, you know. It
I
was a weird
bet,
one.
I bet, but I'd definitely say that's something to pursue because there is not a person I have met that has never seen a cannabis plant that the first time I show them a cannabis plant, they're like, "That's it.
That's it.
This is the, you know what I mean? Like it's it. It's just such a tight. This is the thing that
Yeah.
they've fucked the world over in every facet. Like most of the resource wars are because we didn't choose this. Like I said,
Hmm.
most of the pollution and the carbon are because we didn't choose this. It's just it's mental, and it feels like we're circling back. And again, humanity has another opportunity to go. Should we do it right this time? And it feels like the
Yeah.
big boys sat on their thrones of money are going, nah, I want more money.
Yeah.
The irony is they're
That,
mentally unwell, and cannabis might heal them of this, in the Native American tradition, this wetico, this cannibalistic
yeah.
toxin in them that means that no, I've got 2 billion, but three would make me really happy.
Yeah. But I
You know
really
what I
need
mean?
four. And five would be a dream. But six is the target.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
10 though. I
exactly.
do want 10 now. Yeah, it's
Well, that's it, man. That's it. I spoke to the Norman Lamb MP a few years back when I was doing NICannaGuy interviews, and I really wish I could do it these days when we have the likes of this and the Zoom, because I was on the phone on a WhatsApp video call with this MP. I felt really overwhelmed, but he told me whenever the Lib Dems were in government with the Conservatives, the Conservatives got the Lib Dems to do a study on how much money could be made for the NHS if they legalised cannabis. And the report came back, it was millions. The report was gave to the Conservatives and it was never seen or heard of again. Now, that's what Norman Lamb told me. But what that tells me in my own head, and what you have said there, is we're getting to a point now where the people that are in charge of this cannabis industry and are reaping an absolute fortune, you're basically getting to the point where we're having to go up to them and say, here, see all that money you have. Do you not want to share it out amongst all these strangers, all these people here, or do you just want to keep it yourself? Because that seems to be the way it it is at the moment. The likes of these big industries with their strangleholds, it's going to be very difficult for the majority to actually break through. But it is 2024. God bless the internet. Without the internet, I don't think we would be anywhere near where we are now with any sort of progression in modern society. So
mm,
onwards and upwards. We just have to keep going, just keep packing away at them. There's still activists out there that are calling for decriminalisation. Legalisation, this is it. An adult in the UK can get a prescription. They don't actually have to have something seriously wrong with them. But again, we're back to the kids, mate. My mind just keeps on going back to the kids. And it's any of the clinics that I talk to, they'll tell you whenever they're saying, oh, here, tag us in one of your videos, or mate, see that video you put up on Instagram, that's our way. You tag us in it there, and I can show you the messages back. I'm saying, I'll tag you in whatever the hell you want when you start actually supplying children for free.
mm,
Because that's the whole point of these clinics existing in my eyes. They can say they don't have a doctor, and the doctors that were prescribing have all retired. I think Professor Mike Barnes, I think he's retired about 6 times over. God love him. He can't be the only doctor in the UK that's got the swingers to prescribe a minor,
mm.
with these sort of neurological problems. But I don't think that it would be a hefty price to actually have some sort of funding from these private clinics, because I don't see it coming from the government. I don't see why patients can't now move forward to put pressure on these prescribing clinics and saying, listen, who is it that where's your compassion scheme? Who is it that you're backing? Because I want you to back X, Y, and whether it be wee Ben in Liverpool or wee Murray up in Scotland or whoever it may be, you
Mhm.
know, and that's the ones we know about, Simpa, because their families, and God love them families, leaving dignity at the door. They understand that the only way to get anywhere is to actually, like, who on earth's gonna video their loved one going through their most vulnerable and moment,
Yeah.
and then put it all over the internet? It doesn't make sense, and they get just as much criticism for that. But in my eyes, that's the bravest parents that I've met, the ones that do that, because they're the ones that they'll do anything. It's a real sorry state of affairs of the state of the country where the minority will always stay the minority. And as long as those sort of groups of people stay in the minority, the status quo, the big conglomerates, big pharma, the suits, the money men, the £700 ticket to get into the room at Cannabis Europa every year, those sort of things, like what the, those sort of things, they'll keep going until there is real proper change. And I think Joe Public, the more the stigma's broke, the more people will start. But the NHS doctors forget about it. I think it's high time we turn around to the clinics that we're actually giving the money to and saying, right, listen, here's the change that we want to see. Because some clinics are pushing boundaries with the police. Some are approaching the likes of social services and stuff, saying, listen, here, we don't wanna get in your face and say discrimination on medical grounds, because people doing their job, whether they're working for whoever, they're just doing their job, whether it's the police or the doctor or social worker. But some clinics are approaching these bodies and saying, listen, let's work together and make it better for the people involved that's stuck in the middle.
Mhm.
So very few are actually doing that. As I says, a lot of the clinics are still very much profit driven. Use our product and only our product, and this is all you're allowed, and that sort of thing. But the more clinics that are opening, you said it earlier, it's out of the box. It's out of the box now. Where it goes is anybody's guess. But I'm just glad to be able to say that we're a part of it and we're on the right side of it. You know, I could have opened a CBD shop years ago, and I can tell you now, see if it did, it would have been closed years ago as well. It wouldn't have lasted, because they don't last, because CBD is just a flash in the pan. It's just an extract. The likes you mentioned, Epidiolex, earlier on, I've seen it in person. I've seen Epidiolex. It'll work for 2 months.
Mhm.
See, God love them, man. See the people that come up into my lounge and they're absolutely over the moon and excited. And I goes, oh, what's happened? And they're like, oh, my son's got approved for Epidiolex. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And it really, that hurts, because I will not wreck that happiness, but I know that
Mhm.
the world's going to shatter in about 2, 3 months into the treatment, because our bodies are fantastic things and we'll get used to these things,
Mhm.
especially extracts of the plant. The Sativex as well. There's a guy I know. He gets his prescription. It started at 4 pumps. When I spoke to him last, it was about 4 years ago, and he was up to 10 pumps. And he says it still wasn't doing much for him. And I says, well, why are you still getting it? And he goes, well, it's MS. He goes, because it's free. But if you go to the clinic, the private clinic, and say you want Sativex, they'll sell you it. But it's about £300 a bottle.
Yeah.
The CBD from the private clinics is, see, when people say a private prescription is expensive, the CBD from the clinics is the most expensive product.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, because
So,
what you said earlier on there, CBD, the likes of America and Canada and stuff, CBD, what's the value of CBD? Very, very low. It's everywhere. It's
yeah.
basically um, a byproduct now, over in them sort of spaces. So how come the private clinics in the UK are that's their most expensive oil, the CBD oil?
Mhm.
There is definitely profiteering going on, but I would say generally in the whole, the UK, the UK is not doing too bad. We are definitely behind the likes of America, but then again, what you touched on earlier, you go into a dispensary in America and say, "Here, mate, I'm dripping with PTSD, or I'm having a bad day and I need something to sort my head out." And the wee guy behind the till's going, "Aye, well, this month's specials, peanut butter breath, waha, and it's awesome and great," and just the wee sales pitch, the likes of the veterans that I talk to in America, the likes of the 1620 Legion and stuff, they don't have doctors. And that's a big problem for them. They've dispensaries, but they don't have doctors. But I know that's niche. That's ex-army, But you would expect anybody that's done any sort of combat to have PTSD, But a lot of people in Northern Ireland have PTSD and they don't actually know. If they're the likes of my age, I'm 44. If they're in their 40s and they've lived here to some extent, there's crossed wires in there somewhere.
100%. I think it'd be like just a kind of cultural PTSD. I mean, we know from studies of Holocaust survivors, even second generation down now, that people that live through protracted and extreme traumatic events, it almost encodes into their like a genetic memory is kind of the way that they're phrasing it. And so, in that sense, you can see it being entirely universally beneficial. This is why, again, it kind of circles back to for me, no offense to anybody that's making money at any level, including us, I suppose. Like, fuck us. Put it in the food. Get it in the water. Like, get it in every, not just human, but all animals. Like, all vertebrates will fucking benefit from cannabis because they have an endocannabinoid system. Well, at least all mammals.
Yeah.
That might be a bit of a dramatic statement, but at least all
that's
mammals.
true. Yeah. Mammals. Yep. Even the human mammals. Even
the human mammals. In
another 5 years, that's actually going to be a word. That'll be a real word. 5 years,
because it will be the human mammals will be like me because I'm scared of like needles and implant, and there'll be the guy that's got the Neuralink and the Inspector Gadget arm wrist extension that pops into 17th. Like
Facebook in his eye, and Spotify and his tiff. Cyborg. What's that, man? That's the future. That's not the future we want, but man, definitely not. It's the future the capitalists want.
But it's the one thing I've learned with humility is I don't want there to be one future or one past or one vision for the present. I cannot encompass it, nor can you, nor can anyone else. There's a 360 of experience, and each of us is looking at a degree, and we can maybe turn and go, oh, another degree, oh, wow. But you will never know the thing that's fully behind you, because in order to get there, you've got to go through all these degrees. But if you could just talk to the guy behind you, you get a better vision. So I think it's many people will make that better future, and they need to be the people that are the champions of their groups, not because we're different and have to be separate, but just because, some people are queer. Some people like drugs. Some people are obsessed with money and wealth and affluence. Some people are obsessed with nature and whatever else, or like artists and creatives, and each whatever it is that the people belong to, that is equally as valid. Capitalism has sold us this lie that some humans are worth more than others. The monarchy and subservience has sold us this other lie that some people are born special. Do you know what I mean? And then we've all kind of got lost and hypnotized in that man's wearing a fancy suit and he's well spoken. He must know what he's talking about. And it's not, man. The most like humble, most realistic, most eye-opening, like jaw-dropping bits of wisdom I've like heard in my life have come from the most unlikeliest of sources. People that my prejudice that we all have, that I obviously try and dampen as we all do, of going, well, you're dressed like this, you're in this place at this time, we're on these drugs, but you've just said something that's completely changed the way I think about everything forever now. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's real life, like lived and living experience generates real wisdom. These people that are just like on Instagram with, look at me, I'm full of steroids, but I'm not. I paid for all these supplements and this is how I did it. Like these fake adverts, these living, imbibed, embodied human beings that are just walking adverts versus these actual humans. And I think more people are wanting to be actual humans. So few people want their 15-minute of fame and to live that life of being a public figure. And I say that as someone who is, I suppose, in some way a public figure. That's incidental. It's not the drive. That's the mechanism by which I get the relief that I want from my life. And then I can actually start my life. I don't know what the fuck I want to be. I might probably be 50 by the time the war ends. And I'm like, all right, I'm going back to school. I can actually go start a career. Because it's the cannabis people, I think we need to reward first, that legacy group of people. We need to find a way of acknowledging and giving them a fair chance, and then building the legalized system or whatever comes next from that, and then grow it from there. But unless there is that class justice, that social justice, that historic justice for us lot, their systems will fail. They'll invest the billions, open the high street stores or whatever. They'll get to their arbitrary numbers, but they'll keep shutting down because it's not going to be the machine that they want. As you said too, and you've alluded a couple of times that I wanted to sort of reference, everyone's endocannabinoid system is unique to them. You know, me and you, if we literally, I grow the same plant, I break the same nug, and we consume exactly the same amount in the same way, it can have two different effects. Potentially, as you say, two extreme effects. I could fall asleep and you could be giggling almost psychotically. Do you know what I mean? And science still doesn't fucking stand this. We don't have a clue. I mean, we're talking about terpenes now, but we're now onto like volatile sulfuric compounds and these other minor things that we're starting to understand where those effects and modulate from. It's the science isn't settled, so we all have to be very humble and go, "Oh, this is what I've found and what I think," and then with genuine interest, listen to each other. This is where that parlay thing comes from. So again, I want to see the vape lounges, the cannabis clubs, the consumption spaces, whatever side of it is, open your doors to the whole community. I'm not saying that you or others don't, but I want to see the medicinal consumers, the prescription consumers in the cannabis clubs. I want to see the cannabis consumers supporting the vape lounges. Do you know what I mean? I want to see the head shops that are real legacy, not money men, having those conversations and supporting someone like you. If they want to learn from you, they fucking pay for your time. You don't drop in your inbox and go, "Oh, let me fucking make more money than you." Like, no.
That's what it feels like, you know.
Rise the tide. If you bring something to the table, I'll reward you, you reward me. There has to be reciprocal growth, because if we don't protect ourselves, they're going to continue to crush us. We've survived 70 years of prohibition. I think we're going to survive a decade or two of legalization. Do you know what I mean? So if we can continue to pull our shit together and have these common spaces, then we've got a bright future, man.
Definitely, Simpa, and even I'm really chuffed to be on the podcast today. When I started my activism in 2016, you were doing a lot of great work with the Durham Police. So you straight away were a bit of a cannabis celebrity to me straight off the bat. Watching you on social media and stuff, and you know, probably in some sort of roundabout way, you've helped me maybe, you know, looking at the likes of yourself and the other activists from back in the day, even the likes of the UPA before it all went down the toilet, you know, the likes of Alex and Carly and Clark, you know, everybody has their own, it's just what you says, you know, my town, my people. Everybody, there's wee diamonds everywhere. There's loads of grips. There's loads of people that are saying, "Here, I want to support you. What you're doing is brilliant. Let me help you," and all the rest of it. And really, all they really want to do is stand beside you and take a selfie, or, you know, get you to tag something that they're doing in their post or something like that, you know, or even a lot of times just wait. The amount of people that have approached me and then they turn around and go, "Where's all the weed?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you're NICannaGuy. Where's all the weed?" And I'm like, there's no weed. There's hardly any money either. See, if I don't sell any taxes, the rent doesn't get paid, you know. So there's a lot of hard work that does go into everything. And I see from around the UK, it's the same as the high profile children that I've already mentioned. Around the UK, they all have their own wee activists and their own wee pockets of groups and stuff. But every now and again, in the likes of when you look in Durham, there's a wee diamond shining there, and that's you, Simpa. You know, or you look down in the very arse end of Ireland, right down the bottom of the Republic of Ireland in Cork, and there's a wee diamond, and that's Martin. All right, Martin, how you doing? I know you watch these too, mate. Shout out to Martin. But Martin's surrounded by a whole pile of people. I'm sure you have had loads of people come and go. I've certainly had loads of groups and people approach me and go as well. But every now and again, there's this one person, and you can tell the enthusiasm, you know, in them. And those are the people that I do have a lot of time for, because a lot of the time they follow through with what they actually are talking about. Yeah. We could sit here and talk for a couple of hours about doing something. Next year we could come back and have the same conversation, and not one of us has moved a step forward. You know, where I feel the real true cannabis, the legacy cannabis activists that are still out there and still very active, They do deserve the respect that what they've done. You know, the old underground cannabis clubs, even before the chilling rooms, there was others. I've seen the old videos. There's
Yeah.
guys, people send me all these things, and they're fantastic to see. You know, and every now and again I'd be like, I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he was doing that in the 90s, you know, that sort of thing. And you're like, wow, wow, you know. So
Yeah,
even
yeah.
before I came along, there was a lot of hard work being done, and it is continuing to being done. So hopefully that is the sort of people that we can get together and say, right, this is the bottom line. This is the bottom line for moving forward with cannabis right across the board in the UK.
Mhm.
You know, so
Yeah, no, agreed. Like I said, I hope that's the one thing that kind of comes across. It's actually on my t-shirt today is unity. I think that we can,
Cracker Spot
yeah.
that Dan brings, brilliant, brilliant
Mhm.
cafe.
Yeah, love it. I visit it every time. I will be back at some point this year. I'm assuming. I'm hoping. We'll see. Yeah, I agree that it's bringing the people together. I think the problem is that money and greed. Greed is, like I said, it's almost like a virus. It become infectious and it's spread
Yeah,
through our community. And as you say, the people that are still here have like gone, well, yeah, I've got no money, but I'm still full of passion. They're the real people full of passion because most of the other people, as you said, they can come up and they don't want to take the risk, but they want the reward.
yeah,
And I've seen it where like I've led the march before through Wales, and I'm dealing
yeah. Cardiff. Yeah,
coordinating the police at one side, and I'm dealing with like the other team. That are dealing with the side bits, and people are coming and trying to grab set, and you're trying to coordinate. And it's people want that. Oh, look at us, we're doing this, and it's like
yeah,
you are, but it's like I don't know. It feels like the rather than if they want to participate at the level they're in, acknowledge that level, or if they want to participate at that other level, then work toward that level.
yeah,
Like as you said, that I always try and give everyone, anyone that's in my inbox right now will tell me I'm a liar. I try and give everyone the time of day, especially face to face. If
yeah,
more so face to face because I'm so much more comfortable. I get so overwhelmed with the number of inboxes and email addresses and all the rest of it because exactly that. I was once that person that was like, I don't know this person. Who are you? You're not connected to the space.
hmm,
Do you know what I mean? And through having the conversations with the right people, I was able to evolve in that space. And I think that, yeah, we have to be mindful to not inadvertently turn away, as you were saying, the one out of 10 people a day, whatever it was your missus was saying,
yeah,
in the shop. You know, we have to be mindful of that because we are 100% of the time ambassadors for the plant, for the culture,
hmm,
and for the community. And we represent through our actions the model of the world that we choose, that we want to live in. Whether we want that to be or not, others will look at us, especially non-cannabis people, and go, that's what cannabis culture is. That's what cannabis people are. So it has to be represented in the highest esteem.
hmm,
Do
yeah,
you know what I mean? I personally
yeah. I
believe
agree.
it's otherwise you're going to end up with more prejudice, more of a backlash, and
Yeah,
yeah, strength in numbers. I'm mindful of the time here, so let's
I have to go
just
feed my wee cats.
yeah, yeah, bless him. He's been coming back and forth in the shot. That's why I keep smiling randomly. He's like looking, going like this over your shoulder. Yeah, oh, it's got to be time. All right. Last quick question then, because I think we flowed pretty well with that there. Is just my cliched question that I ask every guest, which
Yeah,
is, what does the future hold for you?
the future holds for me a lot of cannabis clouds, a lot of um, hopefully, I would like to say a lot of relaxation. Um, I am my body's starting to give up on me. My scripts for mental health, but I think I'm pretty confident I could get one for chronic pain too if I really wanted to. So, rest. I don't get a lot of rest. My shop's only people laugh at me. They say, "Here, your shop's open from 2 to 6 in the day. What's that all about? That's only 4 hours." That's when people turned up. When we were open all day, that's when people turned up. But I said to him, I says, listen, see if I'm going to set my own hours, why would I get up in the morning? You know, and see, even at that, me trying to get up in the morning when I do have to get up, it's a mess. So the future, I would say, is definitely loads of cannabis, hopefully some rest, maybe I'd love to say a nice beach. My missus is getting sick and tired of me saying, Mum will go to Barcelona, and she gets all excited, and then I take her to Cannabis and she's not happy. Or we're like, Mum will go over somewhere in Europe, and I trail her around Amsterdam, So maybe a nice, quiet family relaxation time would be
Hey,
nice.
Thailand's lovely.
Don't know. Don't know about the food over there. I don't know about the food. Like,
Mm. Yeah, I'm a
have you
vegan,
been?
so I'm picky. No, I haven't been. It was more of a joke of, somewhere relaxing and beautiful, but with a good weed scene,
Aye,
or
because
somewhat of a
a lot of
temporary
people
weed
are.
scene.
Thailand's coming up in a lot more conversations than it used to, for sure. A lot of
Yeah.
people are going over there.
If you get the option, I'd recommend to anybody do so because we're always saying, yeah, the cat doesn't go back in the bag, etc.
Yeah.
Asia has got, in terms of the whole peninsula, has a very torrid history of doing some atrociously violent things to cannabis consumers. Don't think just
Mhm.
because one parliament said one thing and one piece of paper was signed that the next bunch of motherfuckers cannot just flip that script. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's so. If you have the opportunity and the money, people, just go to Thailand, go experience it now while it is the most
Yeah.
wild west it will ever be. Yeah, go experience that shit.
Well,
See
what I
how that
can
lives.
say definitely for the near future, for 420, S420, I'll definitely be in Hyde Park, coming to London, mate, coming over to see you for 420. So make sure you keep one of them for me. You have in your hand now.
I need to figure out where I'll be.
Where are you gonna be?
I was going to put a Durham, we were going to put a Durham event on, but logistics
Yeah,
got nah. Next year, I think there's going to be. I think we're looking at potential. Here's an exclusive for you. We're looking at relaunching Durham City Cannabis Club, and just again rebuilding
that'll
the
be brilliant.
community because that's
Yeah,
it's about bringing the people together. And I don't have every answer or vision, nor does
yeah,
anybody, nor could I. But if I get enough, what does Joey Diaz says? Give me three motherfuckers, and I can take over the world. It's that kind of thing. It's we just need get the homies together. You know what I
that's
mean?
it.
The sisters and the brothers, and we'll sit down and be like, all right,
Get the band back together.
yeah, exactly that, and just try to rebuild that. Like I said, if we need to accept they are inevitable, don't sit and rest on your laurels and go, oh, 5 years we'll be like Germany.
Yeah,
Yeah, look at what Germany actually is. Really get into the limitations of their
yeah,
model. No offense to my German listeners, but
yeah.
the restrictions, I mean, even like the 25-gram limit is spitting in the face of the cannabis culture. At least give
Hmm.
us the ounce.
Yeah,
That is the quintessential thing of at least the ounce. That's the minimum point. At least the Yanks got that right with all of their different
yeah.
states coming on board. Do you know what I mean? Was
Where does
that
35 even come from? Who pulled 35 out of the sky?
it's 25.
25? That's even
Yeah,
worse.
exactly. So it's less than an ounce. So you can't buy the ounce from somebody. It's. I'll just quickly list these off before I let you go. It's 3 plants per household per year, but only 3 plants. If you grow your plants January to April, you are
Yeah.
out of plants. No more plants allowed for you. Of
Okay.
those plants, you are only allowed 50 grams. So you go 3 plants, which means you've got to keep them about this big, because
Yeah.
otherwise, an average plant with very little input will grow just an ounce. So
Oh,
your 3 plants an ounce is 28, 60, 72, it's like 80, 90 grams. So woof,
yeah.
you're way over your budget there. So you're going to have to grow very small plants.
That's even, you starve the plants and you're still going to have too much?
Yeah, the clubs are going to be effectively government regulated and operated. There will be allowed 500 members per club. Each
Hmm.
German citizen will only be allowed to join one club at a time and only visit one club. In order to visit the clubs, you must have been a German national for at least 6 months to qualify to buy from the club.
Yeah.
When you're limited at the club to buy 50 grams a month, which you can either buy in up to 25 grams at a time. So you could go to the club twice in a month and get 25 grams, but then you've got to wait to the end of the month to buy some more.
Wow.
Yeah, the Germans have said themselves that this is not about liberalization. This is not about legalization in like in the old parlance of like
Yeah.
letting it go off the reins.
Yeah.
They want to tackle the black market, reduce youth consumption, and overall reduce cannabis consumption. That's their benchmarks. And
Yeah.
again, it's like, what? No offense, what are they smoking?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen? What do you think the
Stuff all
German
work.
marketplace already is? It's like my statistics might be wrong here. I think it's 84 million people, over 100,000 medical consumers, and about 5 million plus rec and just
Yeah.
non-prescribed consumers. Like that market, no, it's they're going to end up shooting themselves in the foot, and I think it's going to do exactly what happened in Thailand. The traffic light government, the centre left and left, and
Hmm.
yeah, parties that make up the traffic light coalition will fall. The next right-wing reactionary government is going to get in, then they're going to tear it all up. And then the people that set up all these businesses, invested all this money, again end up criminalized, and there's going to be a whole new wave of activism. And do you know what I mean? We see that model play out time and time again. The only reason it doesn't work in the States in
Yeah.
the same way is because of
Yeah.
citizen-led initiatives. This is
Yeah.
why we need citizen assemblies, why we need fucking proportional representation, why we need to modernize our politics so the politicians actually represent the will of the people.
Yeah.
Because it just
Yeah.
doesn't anymore. It just doesn't. But yeah, there's Germany for you folks.
We'll have to get back and discuss Germany because I have my own opinion, but like I'm having to do. One of my cats is something's came in the see the paw hanging out the box. One of them's get in it, so
Oh,
they're making
bless.
an awful racket here. So I'm gonna have to go and
All
sort it
right.
out.
Yeah, I'll let you go. It has been an absolute pleasure, brother. And no
That's
doubt
brilliant.
get you on again in the not too distant future. Yeah, we'll say
Definitely.
goodbyes now. I've got 2 minutes that I want to talk to you about off the record, and then I'll come back on and finish my outro. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. Where can people keep up with you?
On Instagram at NICannaGuy, or you can email me NICannaGuy@gmail.com, or the webpage for the Dry Herb Vape Lounge is www.staymedicated.co.uk.
Awesome. I haven't heard anybody say www dot in a while. That was nostalgic, beautiful, and the best way
Very
to end this
well.
podcast. All right.
Nice one, Simpa. Thank you, mate.
No, it's been a pleasure, brother. Honestly, thank you. Go feed your cats and enjoy your day, brother. And yeah,
Yes.
catch you later, man. All right, peace
Stay
and love.
medicated. All the best.
All right, peace. Well, there you go, folks. That was Alan Robinson from the Stay Medicated Lounge in County Antrim in Northern Ireland. That was a very good conversation. Flowed very well, very easy. Didn't really look at a lot of my notes there. I think we actually covered most of the questions and subjects that I'd kind of jotted. I think we did good to cover sort of some of the more specific details of the German, let's call it quasi-legalization at this point, because it's legalization doesn't mean anything anymore. The colloquial and like fucking defined legalese terms of them are just it's hollow. It's like when Dennis Walker was on about psychedelics the other week. It just sounds meaningless. But yeah, good to talk to Alan and get an idea of kind of what's happening in Belfast and the scene, to see that the space is growing, to see, you know, his passion isn't diminishing after, you know, 2.5, maybe 3 years. He's a committed man. He's like you said, he saw something, he said something, he did something, and he's still doing something. And I can't help but commend and respect that. You know, it's like I think I've said enough times on this podcast. I think we're touched by the plant. You know, oh, show me on the door where the plant touched you. We're touched by the plant, and it affects us, and we end up championing and fighting and being an ambassador for the plant and supporting and protecting it in whatever way that we can. And I think Alan is one of those people, and he is you know, often seen as the sole voice in Northern Ireland. There are some other active people, like he says, but it's sort of few and far between. And more made Northern Irish cannabis activists, politics, you know, sort of evolve and there be more conversations and discourse. Don't know how much, you know, credence I put in the trust of the DUP being sort of put back into power and the restarting of the government. Um, but yeah, the Northern Irish fight is the Welsh fight, is the Scottish fight, is the English fight. We're all this little UK, and for all, yeah, there's devolved powers in the way that it's kind of structured. What is good for one is good for all. So yeah, if you're in Northern Ireland, do check out the Stay Medicated Lounge and do yeah, go see Alan, go have a chat with him. He's good people. He's good people. All right, folks. Yeah, I'm not going to keep you much longer because yeah, we've done a good bit of time there as well. Good concise podcast. Covered some good subject matter. And it's still light outside. I can get outside while it's still daylight, even though yeah, I'm going to be stuck in here for what I think 7 hours of recording tomorrow. So like I said, if I look haggard over the next couple of weeks of recordings, it's because tomorrow was a very long day. Yeah. I've enjoyed this, folks. If you have too, please do give us a like, share, a subscribe, a rating, whatever it is that you do to show your appreciation. I greatly appreciate you doing so. If you really like this, check us out on patreon.com/The Simpa Life, where for less than a cup of coffee a week, you can help me keep the lights on this project. Check out thesimpalife.com for more blogs, articles, information, exclusive content, etc., etc. We'll be back next week with somebody. I don't know. It'll be awesome. You'll love it. I'll love it. It'll be great. All right. Peace and love, folks. 3 joints of that Zaflora was maybe not the best idea. Oh, I'm baked. That was a fun conversation, though. I think did I write that? Literally, again, did not look at my notes very much at all. But I think we free flowed pretty good. We free flowed pretty well. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. I don't know. I'm doing that thing again where I'm just talking, assuming that this is going to be part of the recording, but I haven't done that. Yo, there you go, folks. So fuck knows. Maybe this is the outro.